I think my microphone should be working. So I know I didn't set a reminder sort of post for this live. I just sort of am going live. But I did make sure to post my reaction or, live reaction and thoughts last night, mentioning that I was going to be going live this weekend. So hopefully we get some people in here today. Please let me know if you can hear me. I wanted to make sure everything's good. Once again, my hair is wet to start this chat, but okay, yes, I can hear you. And Ashley Lane says hi, hello. Okay, we'll wait a couple minutes, see if we can get anybody else in here. Hopefully people are notified that I'm live. Yes, do people get the notification? I hope. Just like if you're subscribed, I hope.
Back to back with something we just
my last video. Let's see. All right. It looks like we got one person in here now, judging from this. So, man, I probably should have promoted this one more, but I've just been busy and I've been in my head a lot about season 5. Just reading so much about it. Really trying to just sit with my thoughts. It's been a lot. But I feel like this conversation will only be pretty good if we can have enough people in here to bounce off of. So I'd hate to have to stop and then go live again maybe tomorrow. Ava Bandy says hi, hello. All right, says we got 3 people in here. We're climbing. We're going up. We're going up. But yeah, obviously there's a lot to talk about if we end up getting to it today. I decided to wear one of the few pieces of Lost Sister merch that exists because we got a lot to talk about. And also R.I.P. Dottie and Mick, apparently. So sad. Very sad to think about. Nani Barcia says hi, hello. Okay, we're getting some people. We got 5 people. We're going. But yes, and I know I didn't have a thumbnail ready to go for this live. So I don't know what the thumbnail is. I think it's just my channel art, which may or may not be doing a lot to draw people to the live. Or it's just me sitting there talking. Okay, that's the thumbnail. All right. Okay, 6 people, so why don't we try to get going? So, volume 2. I'm going to put it out to you guys first. How are we feeling? How are you guys feeling about volume 2 now and season 5 as a whole? I want to know. And then we can go from there. Eddie Hill says hi. Kyla, hello. All right, Kyla says I'm pretty upset. LOL. Okay. Yeah, I'm still not entirely sure because if you saw my live reaction and commentary video I put up, I was on the edge of my seat watching it. I was into it. I was having a good time. I was locked in. But then by the time it was over, I was just kind of sitting there like, okay, just trying to assess everything. Like, all right, so where are we actually at now going into the finale? Um, you know, how exactly is the finale going to play out? I still have no idea. Remember the last chat I was saying that I hoped by the end of volume 2 I would have maybe more of an idea of how everything's going to end? No idea. I really do not know. Um it's yeah, it's really up in the air. Um Love your top. I've got that on a mug. Yep, I got the mug too. I think I mentioned that before. It's yeah, the same exact design on a mug. Um, which was official merch. So I was like, wow, got to scoop that up. Um, but yeah, again, I said wearing this shirt today because RIP Dottie and Mick apparently, and Axel and Funshine. So sad. Um, why would you want to know how everything is going to end? Like seriously. I don't want to know. I just kind of want to have an idea, you know what I mean? Like just some sort of idea. I was hoping we'd be at some a place where we could kind of be just ever so slightly comfortable going into the finale, but it's like so much is up in the air. I just have like so many it's more so about, as I said in my um reaction video, that it's more so the idea that everything is just feeling really rushed. And I feel like I thought by now we would at least have more of Henry's backstory heading into the finale so that we can kind of have an idea of like, all right, you know, we've gotten at least some of that out of the way so that we know that the finale is going to be maybe, the final battle. Um, dealing with the return of the Mind Flayer. Are we going to be redeeming Henry at all? I feel like we probably are. I said that before. Like, I don't think they would have shown all of this stuff of Henry as a kid and have Max now saying, he's still human and like whatever, you know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't be doing all that if they weren't going to try to redeem him in some way. It just feels like there's a lot to do going into the final episode now. So that's why I say that it's a little bit more of like less of how we don't know how everything's going to end and more so of like just how are they going to pull it all off kind of feeling. I feel like if it was more if they had worked out a lot of that stuff um in episodes 6 and 7 heading into the finale, I might not feel that way. But it seems like they're saving almost everything for the finale, and that's why I'm kind of like it feels so up in the air of like we have like no idea how this is really going to play out in sort of a a scary tentative way of like and I was hoping that we wouldn't be going into the finale with that feeling. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. It's not so much how that I want to know how everything's going to end going into it, but I want it to be a little bit more assured than I am of them being able to pull off everything that needs to be pulled off. Um let's see. Rosie Girl says, "Help, I was so disappointed with volume 2." Eddie Hill, the Max scene was so emotional. I'm happy she's back. Same. You saw me cry in my reaction. And I feel like it was also just because like my emotions were so high. I was just like on the edge of my seat, like I said, and I was so nervous about everything. I just didn't know what to expect, obviously. And so I was just ready, just an emotional ticking time bomb, I think, for a lot of things. Um, Ava says, "I hope Elle changes her mind about dying last minute and tells Hopper." And I'll go back and expand on a lot of these messages. I'm just sort of going through them because I feel like I'm trying to learn from my previous 2 lives, trying to make sure everybody has their comments heard. So Rosie Girl says, I feel like it lost a lot of its appeal from the first few seasons of it being more supernatural, and well, now it's all science. And yes, how do we get a fully fleshed Henry backstory? Um, Cowboy like Tay. Yes, I have a feeling the finale will be rushed and underwhelming. MK fan, it was just okay. A lot of build up, and I'm like, wait, a lot of build up and like get on with it. But I'm happy they finally just say the kid is gay. I think a lot of us know. Uh, Kyla, I got so many issues with volume two. Really enjoyed volume one, but now I'm legit 50-50 on whether I should watch the finale. Um, all right, so I think that's we're caught up on the messages there. Um, yeah, so let's dig into some of these messages. So I hope Elle changes her mind about dying last minute and tells Hopper. So let me uh pin that for right now because I think that's one way. Like I think I figured that out in the last chat that it does highlight that message. So if anybody is watching the replay of the chat and following along with the live, they can see basically what comment I'm currently responding to. Um, yeah, I this is weird, right? This is a tough one. Um, because it obviously is this is sort of getting into all the collie stuff. Um, which I have so many thoughts about. But obviously, yeah, I don't think that I it's tough, you know, will Elle go along with the plan? You know? It does sort of seem like she made the decision pretty quickly. You know, suddenly she's just agreeing with Kali in the truck, and it's just like, all right. I don't know. And again, this kind of goes along with everything feeling a little bit rushed. It's like suddenly, you know, Elle's making this decision, and Kali's like just shoving this idea at her, and we got just all this other stuff going on. I don't know, but I have way more thoughts on that, but I don't know if I want to get to that yet. Because man, I've been sitting with it for hours and hours and hours now. Um, as for having issues with volume two, but now being 50-50 on whether you should watch the finale, for me, there's no way. There's no way I can't watch the finale at this point. You know, way too many years invested in this story to not tune in to see how it all turns out. Um, but I get where you're coming from. I do almost feel like I am scared. You know, I'm scared to tune in um, because, you know, not only is it the end of Stranger Things, but it's just how is everything gonna play out? That's just my main concern, and I'm just so nervous and scared to tune in and watch it because as you've all probably seen, the public's response to season 5 so far now, following the release of volume 2, is abysmal. And I am honestly kind of shocked to see how this is going because oh my god, is it really sad to see. Um, Now, do I agree with the public's opinion of it right now? No, I think that a lot of the response has been a little bit uncalled for. I do, like I said, I have my own criticisms and feelings towards it. Um, but I think it is a little bit out of control, the response to the season. I mean, it is, and I think there's a lot of reasons why um it's receiving the backlash it's receiving right now. A lot of it, like I said, I think is uncalled for. And so let's go over it. Let's go over why the response is what it is right now. And I think there are a couple reasons and not all of them are very, I don't know the right word, fair in yeah. Anyway, so I think it's very clear that two of the big reasons why we're seeing review bombing, negative review bombing, in particular for season five, for season five as a whole, like on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's pull this up here. Uh, Look at this. Oh my lord. 63% audience. This is rapidly declining. Um, Last night before I went to bed, which I went to bed very late, it was at 75 or 74%, which, not great. But after volume one, I think it was sitting around like 85, which, isn't too bad. But this has just been rapidly declining since Friday. And it is dangerously close to rotten territory, uh, which is insane and a first for Stranger Things. None of the seasons have come this close to this at all. And if you even look at the top critics, it's sitting at 78%, which is the lowest rated by critics to date as well. I mean, let's if you just go, it is kind of crazy when you click through the seasons and look at the decline here apparently. So season 1, 7% critic, 96% audience, just universally loved. Um and also pretty much universally loved despite what people love to say about this season, right? 94% critics, 90% audience, right? We were still going strong. Slight decline from season 2, but still within the 90th percentile, right? Still pretty strong. Then we get to season 3 and we start to see Stranger Things standards dropping into the 80s, right? And it's like, all right, what did the critics think? 85. All right. So, we're seeing a little bit of a drop again for Stranger Things standards. Season 4 has gone up. It was 89, I think, or 86 or something. I guess other people decided to go in for rewatch and give more reviews, and it's gone up. And the audience response to season 4 has gone up, right? But then you get to season 5. Oh my god, right? So again, critics 78, audience 63. Um, such a drop off. And like I said, just dangerously close to rotten territory. I would not be surprised if by tonight or tomorrow we are looking at a 50% range response for season 5. And that is insane. And I don't even want to click into the reviews because I know what they're going to say. And this was one of the reasons happening because Will's coming out scene is being dragged by two different audiences. We have homophobic people and anti-woke people or whatever coming out of the woodwork now to, negatively review the season and the episode, The Bridge, because of, sorry, there's something on my screen. Because of, why do they have to shove this stuff into everything? Da, 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 blah, 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 right? When we should have seen a scene like this coming. They have made it very clear that Will was going through a queer coming out journey on this show. It should not have been that surprising. But I guess with the way it played out, coming or complaining about it coming at a poor time and too many people being in the room, which again, if you had watched it, you would know why he chose to do that, I think, so that everybody would be aware of the secret, so Vecna wouldn't be able to hold it over him. And that, maybe it went on a little too long and it was a little ham-fisted or whatever, sure, okay. But the response is out of control. um, especially from that homophobic, anti-woke crowd that is one side of the review bombing there. And then the other side of the review bombing is also, unfortunately, Byler shippers who are unsatisfied with the outcome, um, and, really did believe that there was going to be Canon Byler by the end of season 5, which again, you guys know my stance on it. I talked about it in depth maybe 2 live chats ago. And let me get out of this for right now. And I have been very clear just from looking at the show, everything we've gotten, that Canon Byler was not going to happen. Um, and it just wouldn't there would just be too much that they would have to undo and really focus on in order for something like that to happen. Just looking at what the show has been telling us, to me, it was clear that that was not the direction. But stuff has gone on over the years where, this community of fans really did, get together in these corners on the internet and, through I understand, there became this very deep desire to see Will get what he wants and, all of this stuff. Like, I get it. I see the vision, what those shippers maybe wanted to see and what they kind of got connected to. Um, but realistically speaking, just looking at the show, I feel like there should have been. I think that specific section of the fan base did get a little bit carried away, and now that it did not go the way they wanted, it's just that's another part of the review bombing. It's just I feel like just a lot of people lost sight of um, what is going on screen and on the show. Um and again, I understand where it was coming from, but I think that too much emphasis was put on the idea that Will's whole coming out journey and arc and queer storyline wouldn't be valid or worth it unless it ended in a romance with Mike. And I think that's where the thing got a little bit twisted. Like, you can ship them whatever, but it ended up really turning into this thing where, you know, if Byler is not canon, then the writing is terrible, then Mike is a terrible character, then, the Duffer brothers need to, never work in the industry again. And, just all of these, like, just very extreme beliefs based on this ship. And it did just get, and I do think that the breaks between volumes did not help. It allowed um, all of this discourse and, you know, just everything to fester, to use a Kali quote, but I mean, it's true. It allowed all of this to fester and bubble up, um, and allow people to, spiral into theories and ideas even more that, um, by the time we got what we got in episode 7, it's just now creating this explosion of backlash from multiple corners of the internet and viewers. So yeah, it's just I don't know. It is a lot, but I hate to see it. I hate to see it. And, I bet you, again, I don't even really want to pull this up because we all know what it's going to say. Um, but, I'm not just saying this stuff. It is the reality of why this is happening. Um, Let's see if we go into these user reviews. I don't want to. Yeah, there we go. The first one. Okay, yeah. What a fall. Truly a bigger bomb than the finale of Game of Thrones. I understand that this has nothing to do with the story, but I guess it needs to be said about being gay. Um, Volume 2 became a show I didn't sign up for, apart from woke overload, blah, 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 forced agendas, sad end for the series, woke agenda, why, show fell off hard, performative BS. And this is just the first page of most recent reviews, you guys. So you get the idea of how this is going. Lazy writing, atrocious. People have different opinions. Writers don't know when to stop. Um, you see where it's going. But then you got the random positive one in here. Scenes were incredible, kept you on edge. Um, but as you can see on this first page here, it is a lot of woke backlash, right? Um, mm. And the other night when I was reading, I did see a lot of people in the reviews mentioning Byler and stuff as well, but none on this first page here so far. But yeah, it's just you get the picture, right? And if you go to, I'm actually curious now to see where the bridge is currently standing um, on IMDb because it was not good last night. Oh my God. Okay, let's pull this up now. Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay. So this is we're in the top rated section right now of the episodes on IMDb. You got to go all the way down. The bridge is getting dangerously close to unseating The Lost Sister as the lowest rated episode of the show. Excuse me. I love the way I'm choking at this right now. Oh my Lord. All right. The last time I checked, around a 7.0, and that was yesterday. Oh my God. 6.2. And The Lost Sister, since Kali's return in volume 1, went down a point. It went down from 6.1 to now 6.0. And now, judging from the audience's response to how they've handled Kali this season, I expect The Lost Sister to dip even lower too. I mean, this has been just not the way we could have wanted this season to go. I mean, at least as far as audience response, right? But to see the bridge sitting at 6.2 is insane. By the end of tonight into tomorrow, it'll probably overtake The Lost Sister as the lowest rated episode. Now, now, is there one part of me that is sister isn't dead last anymore? There may which is crazy to see, but because you never would I had thought that there would ever be another episode that would be challenging this right now. But wow. Um Mostly I feel as though this is extremely uncalled for. Um Much like I felt like the response to The Lost Sister was uncalled for. It feels like when it comes to Stranger Things, I don't know. It just feels like there is always the tendency to just overreact when things go a little bit sideways. It's just like, I don't know. Is it just because season 1 was just so good that like as soon as any of these following seasons take any sort of wrong step in any sort of way, it just becomes complete over exaggerated outrage. Like, I don't know. But again, if we go into the bridge, uh, we will see that the reviews will be saying what all the under season 5 was saying. Featured review date for most sea of nonsense. Oh, some people saying stop hating, but then good lord, incredibly lame, story unrealistic, unfair. I don't like girls and giving it 1 out of 10 for that. Botched character development, undeniably bad. Ah, great penultimate episode. So. And while we're on the subject, I am curious to see what new reviews have coming in for this. I don't anticipate this to be good. Review date. All right, yesterday, almost quit the show because of this episode. Episode felt disjointed. Okay. Is this person watching for the first time? They said hoping they don't bring back the sister. I don't know. Very out of place. Oh, well, this one says wonderful delight. Don't know if they're being sarcastic, but no, it seems like they genuinely liked it. So I don't know, but it's just, again, just so much of season 5 just has not gone the way a lot of us season 2 fans and Lost Sister defenders have hoped to see it go. And really kind of is almost the worst possible outcome as far as audience response, right? Because if we look at what the show is actually doing, I of course do still have problems with that too. So let's get into some of that. I've been talking a lot, so I'm gonna scroll up a little bit here. All right. Well, some of the criticisms are indeed valid. It's definitely not worth the amount of hate that it's getting. I think a lot of people just like to hate on popular things and pile on. That is definitely part of it. Volume 2 has some good moments, but also confusing. Blades of Munch says, I made it. I like these live streams. Hello. Thank you for making it and joining us. Drago says, without the coming out scene, it would have been like an 80 to 85% probably. But just for a 5-minute coming out scene, it's down to 63%. Man, that's insane. Yes. I do feel Will's coming out scene was badly handled. It felt less organic and more like a PSA. It should have been more of an intimate moment with his family and close friends. Again, I can see that. I can see that argument. But it did mostly kind of go the way I was thinking it would. Having that many people in the room, again, I guess I see that complaint. But again, I mean, it is what it is at this point. What needed to happen happened, you know. I mean, but again, I'm always a little bit of the devil's advocate with that, right? I've always loved the Lost Sister. A lot of what they're saying about Will's coming out scene and a lot of the bridge in general is a lot of uh, similar to the kind of discourse and rhetoric we saw surrounding the Lost Sister. With Will's coming out scene in particular, it's that it was poorly placed, right? Poorly timed. That's what people say about season 2, episode 7. That it was, too over the top or too ham-fisted or whatever. People said that Kali and her gang were too cut and dry, that there was no nuance, that it was, whatever. We're seeing a lot of the same sort of complaints for just this one little thing. And so that's why I'm a little bit more like, come on now about it, because I feel like we've seen this sort of reaction and overreaction to things before in the past. And where I can kind of see where people are coming from, I still think it's a little bit over the top. Jay Vasquez, I'm enjoying volume 1 and 2. I'm loving all the sci-fi questions being answered. Looking forward to the finale. I do see the criticisms, so I agree. But some are just exaggerated. The super divided world is crazy, even more so on the internet. He could have come out in a dream to a dead person and people would still hate it just because he's gay. You can't take that seriously. Coming out seeing his death going to pay off in the finale for Will to defeat Vecna. A bit strange how random people were in the room too, but it was beautiful. Um, let's see. Then the cast shouldn't have been so vocal about shipping Byler in interviews. I don't think they were. I think a lot of the interviews were plainly stating things. I think, the Duffers mentioned the Byler fans and said that they're one of the loudest audiences they have, but when you get into the writers room, you have to shut off all the noise and write the story that they feel is the story they're telling. And I think that was kind of a delicate shutdown, right? There were some other things. I think Finn saying, certain fan theories like Byler, if it were to happen, wouldn't necessarily feel earned. Um, there was a recent interview with Gaten Matarazzo saying that he finds the theories like kind of funny and just that, Mike and Will are good friends and there's a deeper story to be had there than just wondering if it's going to turn into a romance. So I mean, I feel like there has been some stuff there not in favor of Byler in the interviews. I think maybe after season 4 or around season 4, I think David Harbour also said like that it seems pretty clear that Mike loves 11 and that Byler is a ship that probably won't sail. I don't know, but again, I know that this is an audience of people who really um just fell into this idea very hard. And I yeah. Um, Nicholas the Brave, as someone who had very subtle and not at all avid Byler hopes, I think the coming out scene was very justified by the narrative. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's clearly been bubbling and building up for quite some time. Going back to season 1, they were sprinkling in dialogue that other people knew that Will was gay, the bullies, Lonnie, like, you know what I mean? And then they really started to peel back those layers more in season 3 and then obviously season 4. And then obviously by now, like, we needed some sort of moment like that. And then all of the stuff with, you know, Vecna potentially using it against him, it was narratively necessary. And I know a lot of people don't like that. It's seeming like he was almost forced to come out because of this narrative necessity of Vecna potentially holding it over him. And some people don't like that approach, but I don't know. The final This final battle is a team effort, and Will's secret was a liability. Yep. That's what we just kind of said. Stranger Birds wanted any tiny moment, Max and Mr. Clark, to address that Hop is supposed to be dead. True. Worse finale than Game of Thrones, and we haven't seen the finale yet, and someone else says worse than Game of Thrones. And nothing, no, worse than Game of Thrones. No, nothing is worse than Game of Thrones. Yeah, the Game of Thrones comparisons are definitely being thrown around a lot. And, I don't know about that, but I have seen 2 recent interview clips that have just come out, I think, of Millie being asked how she feels about her ending. And it's very much giving Amelia Clark on the red carpet being like, best season ever, or whatever. Like, we do kind of see Millie being like, uh-huh, yeah, I love it. Like, very, very similar. So I'm worried. There was another one where an interviewer asked them, how did it feel to read the final script? And Noah literally makes this face and looks over at Millie. I was like, this does not seem good. It is giving me shades of what the cast of Game of Thrones was doing, or even the cast of Rise of Skywalker, right, leading up to that. So some of it, that I've seen from the cast. So that is concerning. Um, Not really helping us here heading into the finale. Um, yeah, I don't know. But I related to Will's acting when he was telling everyone his secret. I cried because I also remember hyperventilating and having a hard time getting my words out. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've seen a lot of people say that they liked it, um, and that it was relatable and whatnot. Um, let's see. It does seem like Mike's character is being emotionally underutilized. I do kind of see that as well, like especially with his parents in the hospital. I've seen a lot of people take issue with that. It's like she's oddly calm about, Karen. We also haven't heard anything about Ted, not a single update on Ted, which is crazy. And it seems like no one else really even seems to care about that. It is a little bit weird. Yes, I know there are almost bigger fish to fry, I guess, right now, but it is a little bit strange that Mike and even Nancy don't really seem to have too much worry about their dad right now. Um, and yeah, and I guess with Mike's reaction to Will's coming out, he was like the fifth person to kind of be like, or me, and hug. So that was kind of weird, I guess. I feel like people have made the argument that season 1 or 2 Mike would have been like very emotional and been right there for Will with it, and he is just kind of sitting there very non-committal, just like, it is a little bit weird. I don't know. But I don't know, man. I'm not homophobic, but you can't lie. That scene could have been set up better. I didn't think he was going to take so long. Yeah, I mean, again, I can see that it maybe went on a little bit long, but again, my outlook is very much like once it's done, what can you do? That has been my stance on something like The Lost Sister for years now. Like so many people saying like shoulda woulda coulda stuff about it. They should have done Elle's story a different way. They should have told it this way. They you know and it's like, okay, but it's done. You know what I mean? It's done. There's nothing we can do about it now, so we have to just kind of assess it for what it is, try to make sense of what it is, um and view it for what it is. And while I see the complaints and some are valid, some are not, whatever, it is ultimately still just like, okay, well, let's calm down a second. You know what I mean? Let's take a closer look at it. Is it really as bad as we're making it out to be? Sort of situation. And yeah. um I do think people have lost the ability to read context properly. The scene made sense for the character and narrative, but the dynamic with Mike was always one-sided. Um, let's see. Sorry, guys. Again, I was on track for a while there, reading all the messages, and then I went off reading some stuff in the reviews and just sort of talking. And now I got to scroll back up. I think it's more grifters than Byler shippers. Shippers can be intense, but they don't usually review bomb. I mean, true, but I have seen Byler pop up in a lot of the negative reviews that I've skimmed through. So I don't know. Um, and I have seen almost like a rallying cry on TikTok of like, we need to, you know, rally against the Duffer Brothers and whatever. We can't let them get away with this terrible writing. Byler should have been canon. We've been queer baited, like all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I really do. I've never seen anything like this. Like this really did turn into something that I do not think the Duffer Brothers anticipated, that the cast anticipated. It really did sort of take on a life of its own among that subset of fans. Um, so yeah, I don't know, but um, all right, let's see. I feel Kali is embodying her namesake. She pushed Elle to confront certain things about herself, and that hasn't changed. People don't like Kali because she's forcing characters to face uncomfortable truths. Yes. And we have a lot to get into with that still. I'm kind of putting it off because there is other stuff to go over. And I know as soon as I start talking about Kali, we won't have time to talk about the other stuff because I have so many thoughts. Um, let's see. And yeah, someone is asking opinion on how they handled number 8 this season. We will get into it. There's just so much to say. So I want to try to get to some of this other stuff first that I maybe don't have as much to say about. Sorry, but that's just hate for the sake of hating. There's no way the bridge is worse than the lost sister. Ain't no way. LOL. People just want to hate because it's trending right now. Um, let's see. Those reviews are so reactive. I hated how the Duffers didn't care enough to have Kali actually talking a bit more to the crew instead of just being there as a plot device. We will get into it. I feel bad for Linnea. It feels like the only person happy that she's there is Millie. Linnea's been putting so much presence into her small scenes. I have a theory. I wonder if Kali has been there in the lab this whole time after Elle's last seen her. Elle's sister is going to die. Uh, the last scene with the kids tilting their heads up is like Wednesday having her visions. True. Um, I hope the finale is 3 hours long. Well, unfortunately, we know it has been confirmed that the finale is 2 hours and 8 minutes, and the last 40 minutes of that is an epilogue. So we really only have 1 hour and 20 minutes to wrap up a ton of things and then sort of have the come down from that with the epilogue, and which will probably be more focused on wrapping up the interpersonal relationships. But for all the heavy plot stuff to wrap up, we got about an hour 20. And that is why I am concerned going into the finale episode. Don't want Elle or anyone really to die, but it makes the most sense for her to end this once and for all. Stranger Things is speed running to the finale, becoming a parody of itself. Let's see. The bridge deserve. No way the bridge deserves such a low rating. I agree it's not a 10, but the ones giving it ones are crazy. It has some cool moments. Finn did appear on Jimmy Fallon, described the finale as emotional, so I hope they stick the landing. I've passed a kidney stone that was less painful than watching that scene. Come on now. As someone who suffers from kidney stones and has passed about 4 in my life, exaggeration, my friend. Exaggeration. Almost nothing is worse than the pain of passing a kidney stone. Oh my goodness. One of my favorite scenes is Vicky talking to Robin. There's a dark wizard talking to children, putting them into a dream world. I laughed out loud. Yeah. Amy Beth's delivery was good. The Titanic-ish scene with Jancy. I know they were even on a table as like water was rising. Kind of funny. And again, so speaking of the Jancy scene, I was one of the people, because apparently that was a breakup. According to the Duffer Brothers in an interview, that was Jonathan and Nancy breaking up. Now, did I clock it as a breakup? Not entirely. And then that started making me question my media literacy. But but I clocked it more as, um, they were clearly, um, sort of unloading all of these thoughts and feelings they'd been harboring and, sort of confronting a lot of the issues in their relationship. That was very clear. Sort of almost confronting a little bit of incompatibility, um, but they ultimately still landed on "I love you," right? And to, obviously not get engaged. So I just kind of saw it as they're attempting to work out their differences, but they're still ultimately going to try to stay together. That was kind of how I read it, but apparently it was a full on breakup, which I can also see as well. Um, but yeah, I kind of took it as like something in the middle, I think, upon first watch. Like I took it as, being a little bit layered of, yeah, we definitely have a lot of things to work through. We've been hiding a lot of things from each other. We probably need to be more open moving forward. Um, maybe we're not as compatible as we thought, but I still love you, sort of thing. It was definitely a loaded scene. But yeah, it was apparently a breakup. So R.I.P. Jancy, R.I.P. Jancy. Oh my gosh, that does kind of suck. I kind of loved them. Um, yeah. Uh, they were phoning it in volume 2. Yeah, but I feel like that has a lot to do with the writing. Again, we've gone over this before. There's the writing and there's the acting. You know, what the writing affects the acting, which affects the whole way everything is portrayed and relayed to the audience. I didn't know the cast was reacting that way when asked about the finale. Yeah, doesn't give me hope either. Um, but who knows? Maybe they're just being weird. I don't know, but I don't know. I do wonder why they didn't use Collie's powers more in the Max Z break-in at the end of episode 7. Yeah, that's another thing. And again, we're gonna get into it with the how they're utilizing Collie. Definitely leaving a lot to be desired. Um, I will say, for any of its flaws, Volume 2 was an amazing showcase of Jamie Campbell Bower's acting skills. I hope he gets an Emmy for his performance. Um, that's from LTC. um, Sadly, I think Stranger Things transitioned from a show that was kind of like awards baity a little bit in the first 2 seasons, because I think season 2 got some nominations for some prestigious awards. I'm not sure what, but I feel like, season 1 got nominated for stuff like at the SAG Awards and I think maybe the Emmys. I don't know, maybe I'm making that up. But and I think season 2 still got some recognition for stuff, but then season 3 did kind of see a drop off of the show being acknowledged in that way. Um, and think I don't see the awards shows giving Stranger Things the time of day again. Sadly, it becomes that sort of thing when it becomes just like the pop culture juggernaut thing. They don't give it the attention it maybe deserves. Like, a lot of people thought that Sadie Sink deserved an Emmy nomination for Dear Billy and everything for season 4. She got completely ignored. Um, so unfortunately, I don't I don't know if, awards seasons stuff is in Stranger Things future anymore. Which is sad. Um right, let's go back up. Okay. Um, they should have extended this season because too much time was wasted on exposition and not enough on allowing emotions to breathe. Finale will have little slash no impact. That is what I'm worried about. In my reaction, you could see me saying like, this is feeling rushed now, because I was kind of holding out hope throughout those episodes, which like, episodes 5, 6, and 7, um, where I was just sort of like on the edge of my seat, partially because I was so nervous and waiting to see how they were going to pull everything off, waiting to get that backstory for Henry, waiting to get the mind flayer, waiting to get so much stuff. And it just like never kept coming. And then by the time episode 7 was done, I was like, okay, so this finale is going to be rushed, isn't it? And it's not maybe going to land as well as it could have if they were, you know, planting the seeds a little bit stronger throughout episodes 5, 6, and 7. I don't know. um I really like that Lucas was the first of the friend group to support Will. He's always been an underplayed character, for sure. I think a lot of people have come around to Lucas in recent years, though. um I think they should have told Karen the truth from the beginning, but I understand why they didn't. Would have been awesome if Kali had conjured up a truck for the army to shoot at, and they just drove into the portal while Kay and the others shot at an illusion. Um, Also, with the coming out scene, there's a little detail at the end. Will breathing so serenely. The weight off the shoulders feeling is portrayed very genuinely. I agree. I felt that by the time that scene was over, I did sort of feel like, oh, like, okay, good. Thank God. All right. We finally made it through that. Um, I also took a deep breath there and locked in for the beginning of the end. Um, if a bad review includes the word woke, we cannot take it seriously. Um, in those people's perfect world, black, gay, trans, Mexican, etc., people don't exist. Um, yeah, that's why it is a little bit to see so many of those types of reviews rolling it is kind of just like, okay. Again, with how it has been very clear that this is the direction Will's character was going in, it should not have been surprising. You know, it's not like they pulled this out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I could maybe see the argument if there was absolutely no breadcrumbs leading towards Will being gay, and then suddenly in episode 7, literally out of nowhere, we got that scene. Oh, hello. That Evie was joining us for a second. Hi. I don't know why you decided to come up here. Oh, there goes the butt. There goes the butt. All right. You just came on to the stream to raise your butt at the camera, Evie. Great. At least show them all your pretty face. Yes. Oh. Yeah. So okay, but you can't walk around my microphone, honey. All right. Okay, she's just standing here now, threatening to almost knock over my microphone and purring. All right, okay. Um, yeah, so if we had gotten absolutely no evidence of Will being gay, and then suddenly in episode 7 we got that scene exactly as it was, but no lead up to it whatsoever, then I could maybe understand the criticisms of it being like, this was forced in there, what? This is like so like random. Sure, maybe. In that case, but that's not the case. There was very clear, um, obvious um, work put in that was all leading up to that. Um, so that's why I feel like the reaction is a little bit uncalled for there. Um, you know. We should have a private conversation about Kali. So nice to find someone as passionate about it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And again, we'll get to it. It feels like we're almost done with all the other stuff and then we can get into it. We've made it an hour into the chat. So tends to be a little under the halfway point for me historically. So we're getting there. I think you'll need to make a video essay on Kali for this season. I know the thought did cross my mind. I was reading, I was perusing Twitter this morning, getting a headache once again. And I was like, am I really going to have to do this again? Oh my God. Again, worst possible outcome for audience response. Just, I really can't believe it. And we will get into it. Um, Not enough time. Yep. The Steve and Dustin fight and eventual forgiveness was the only well-written part of these 3 episodes. Great writing, good acting, both from Gaten and Joe made their relationship even better. Agreed. That was one of the other moments where I cried. I didn't film myself at that moment or uh, whatever in my little reaction I put out, but I cried. And I think Gaten is one of the cast members, especially of the party, that is putting in a genuinely good performance. Like, I can see some of the spotty acting from other people, but I think that Gaten has done basically, oh, it's cat hair now on my microphone. Um, I think Gaten has done basically no wrong this season. I think I know some people took issue with him being all moody, but it's like that again made sense narratively following the death of Eddie. Um, so again, that's more so people not taking the writing of previous seasons and the lead up to this season into account, or accurately reading what's going on screen. Um, but yeah, I think Gaten every time he was on scene, like the panicked running up the stairs to try to get to Jonathan and Nancy in time, his breakdown to Steve about how much, he can't die, like so good. He has been putting in the work, and they've also written him very well. I do feel like the fight was like a little crazy, like a little intense. I mean, the fist fighting, you know, Steve going off about Eddie, which he went off so hard that again in my reaction, you see, I genuinely thought that it was Vecna targeting um, Dustin in that moment. That Dustin's trauma was making him susceptible to being a Vecna victim, and I really thought that it was going to be Steve suddenly turning, and it was Vecna, like we saw with uh Lucas in season 4 with Max. But it wasn't. That was just Steve going off, I guess. But the resolution to that was great. And again, one of the reasons why they can't kill Steve and most likely will not kill Steve. Um, I don't want neither Elle nor Kali to actually go through with their pact, but at the same time, the Shire is saved, but not for me vibe is it really works in my mind. Um, I'd love for Elle and Kali to find an alternate solution, but I don't disagree with the reasoning. Um, Elle losing her powers didn't stop the military for searching for her before. True. Besides the borrowed time, Owens, who, by the way, where is he? Yeah, got her between seasons 3 and 4. Again, yeah, where is Owens? I really feel like they might have completely forgotten about him, which is an insane oversight to leave him chained to a pipe at the end of season 4. And judging from the way some things have gone, like the way a lot of people have issues with volume 2, that a lot of people, think that it is a deeply flawed season now. If they if they truly did forget about Owens completely, Yeah, that will be another sign of maybe the writing actually, yeah, wasn't that good, I don't know. Um, and they weren't really thinking very straight here. Um, Favorite scene of volume 2 was Will talking through Vecna, agreed, that was really good. And again, in my reaction, I said that I feel like we didn't really see that one coming. I don't think we I don't think anybody really predicted that that's the way that scene would have played out, the run scene. Um, it was pretty clear to me about the Jancy scene, and I'm glad they did it. Was very much needed. One of the best scenes, along with Dustin and Steve, for sure. Yeah, I mean, at least it was the end of the love triangle stuff. They also made sure that Nancy said that it's not like that with Steve and whatever. So finally, that is put to rest, and it has ended up being Team Nancy. Right in the end, it's Nancy uh, being her own person in the end. I loved the maturity shown by Jancy and the L Mike combo while sitting on the tank. Same with the L and Mike conversation because that's something I've been wanting. Like as someone who really started to root for Mike and 11 after season 2. Like I loved them in season 1, but I really loved like this sort of like emotionally deep um like route they took with them in season 2, which I feel like we lost a bit in season 3. It kind of became like, oh, let's just have fun with the relationship now, make it a little bit more typical teenage stuff. And that sort of lost the luster a little bit, along with a lot of things in the show. We've gone over that. Um, and then, they tried to do some repairing in season 4. And, I feel like a lot of the time, especially since season 2, where they were separated for the majority of the season, I have felt like we have been robbed of just like pure bonding moments between Mike and 11 where they can just sort of talk. You know what I mean? That's something that I've wanted to see for like 3 seasons now. So, I was happy to at least see them get a couple scenes like that. The scene in episode 1, now this scene in volume 2, but still not a lot. Still not a lot. I do feel like the writing has fumbled Maleven a little bit like that ever since season 3. But as someone who likes 11, I hope she doesn't die and her and Mike deserves a happy ending and Joyce and Hopper should get married. Now that this show is over, what's the next show to watch? I've been thinking about multiple shows to start, but can't decide. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think, my friend and I were talking about this, and I've been thinking about it for a while now that once Stranger Things is over, this might be the last moment of like true monoculture for entertainment, right? I feel like this is one of the last things that it seems like or feels like almost everybody is tuning in to watch, and that almost everybody is tuning in to be able to have discourse about afterwards, right? Like the water cooler talk that we used to have when everybody watched TV week to week and streaming didn't exist yet. And there was a finite amount of options, and there were these big shows that were on everybody's radar and everybody was talking about them the next day, right? It feels like this is maybe one of those last moments, one of these last fleeting moments that we might have as a society when it comes to entertainment. So I'm trying to enjoy it for that, at least. Um, of like trying to at least enjoy the fact that we're all experiencing this together, regardless of how it goes. Um, trying to find some enjoyment in that. Um, Noah deserved an Emmy nom for season 2. Still not over that. Yeah, I can co-sign that. He did at least win, I think, most frightened performance at the MTV TV and Movie Awards, which MTV, not exactly the pinnacle of prestige, but it's something. Um, One of my favorite scenes was Will snapping Vecna's bones. Yup. Uh, I think releasing this final season into 3 volumes did not work in their favor. They probably should have dropped everything Christmas or New Year's. Yeah, that is something I have been, uh, thinking about, and I do think that it probably did cause a little bit more harm than good. Like I said, it allowed expectations to fester, and build up even more. It caused more fandom, infighting and discourse, and just a lot of crazy stuff that now when we get the volumes, it's almost like they're setting each volume up for disappointment because they're allowing the time for expectations to either get even higher or completely plummet. You know what I mean? It's like it's just it's really tough. And again, this is how TV shows basically were forever. You know, you watch TV week to week. You know, this isn't exactly something new. Sometimes you would have to wait 3 months after a mid-season finale for the rest of the season to come back, you know what I mean? So, this isn't necessarily a new concept, but I think for some reason for Stranger Things, this sort of release schedule is just not working. It's just not working for them. It is just causing a lot of unnecessary, unnecessary reactions. I do wonder how the response might have gone if it all just dropped at once. I do wonder if there would have been any difference. Because oh, excuse me, because right now, you know, we don't have the full picture, and they are clearly saving a lot for the finale. So again, whether or not the finale is rushed or not, you know what I mean? Like they obviously have to cover everything in the next episode. So we don't know how it's going to play out, but you know, we don't have the full picture. And I feel like if we had the full picture by now already, if we had all of season 5 at our disposal and we see how it actually all ends up playing out, maybe all of this discourse that's happening right now, you know, would not be happening if we all were able to digest the whole season and be able to look back at everything and be like, oh, okay. But like right now, we're just getting it in pieces and it is causing a lot of these just up and down response. You know what I mean? Like we went from Sorcerer being the best episode of the show, oh my god, to now suddenly episode 7 is the worst episode of the show, only rivaling The Lost Sister. It's like, whoa. You know what I mean? It's like the whiplash that we're going through is crazy. And I feel like some of that has to do with the release schedule. Um, oh my God. Uh, Yeah, because now volume 3 has to be epically good. Exactly, the finale has to be, like, so incredible, like, they're putting, like, so much pressure on themselves now with the finale. Um, and the Duffers have said that they have known what the final 10 minutes or so have been of the show for years now, and they've used that as their North Star, and they really focused on writing this finale episode. You know, Sean Levy has called it a masterpiece, that he's in tears, you know, all this stuff, you know. I mean, it's like, so they're again, though, this might not help. They are hyping up the finale. They said that they looked at shows like Game of Thrones for inspiration for what not to do, right? And as of right now, everybody is comparing it to Game of Thrones already. So it's tough, and I also feel like, again, with this release schedule, it's hurting the show because people are making up their minds already about the season without having the full picture, you know, without knowing how it all ends up. And so I feel like now, unfortunately, regardless of how it ends up, people are going into the finale with a negative mindset. They're going into the finale expecting it to be Game of Thrones 2.0, you know, expecting it to be terrible. They're hating on what has just transpired in the previous episode. So, you know, unfortunately, I feel like a lot of this has ended up being the worst possible outcome for the final season, and it's really, really rough and sad to witness. And again, I don't necessarily think it has to do with the actual content of the season. I think it has to do with a lot of other factors that, we have gone over. The response to Will's coming out scene being an overreaction in a lot of ways, Um, the stuff with Kali, which we will get into. um, and yeah, just a lot of other things, the writing, the exposition, which I do agree with, to a degree, um, you know, and then the release schedule of only getting all of this in chunks, and forming very solid opinions about things before we have the full picture. And so I feel like all of this is making a perfect storm for, like, no matter how the finale turns out, for it to just land a little bit lukewarm and just not really satisfying for a lot of people. And my daughter is back. Hello, Evie. um, let's see. This season has made me realize how much of a short queen Kali is. Hello, Evie. Um, Hop and Kali height contrast. Um, let's see here. It would be better off now if it was all a D&D game at this point. Oh no. I mean, at least maybe that would absolve some of the stuff at this point if people really had a problem with all the writing. God. Um I just hope the ending is good. I think their insights are truly valuable in formats. Dearly missed Beyond Stranger Things. Yeah, I loved that after season 2. And I started rewatching Beyond Stranger Things a little bit recently, and I was like, I feel kinda lucky though that the only time they did, um, Beyond Stranger Things was for season 2. So it's like at least season 2 fans have that, and we have a lot of insight into that season specifically. Um, but yeah, I feel like we maybe should have gotten that for every season. Um all right. Linnea is awesome. She demanded her hair get cut on screen. Yeah, and we'll get into that. Um, I feel like season 4 was the Infinity War, so season 5 is the end game. But the question is, who will make the ultimate sacrifice? Maybe Duffers listened to the criticism of season 4 episodes being too long, too bad. Um, I'm at least glad Kali did not wear white the whole time. True. Um, Hello, new to the channel and excited to discuss season 5. Hello, JB Sonic. Um, Steve wanting 6 kids or and 6 nuggets, and Jonathan calling it like a happy meal made me laugh. Same. That was funny. You know what I mean? And I like those are the kind of moments of levity I like, right? Just like these nice little conversational moments that just sort of happen naturally. Like that's when I think the comedy works on Stranger Things, right? The over the top stuff, I don't think they're as good at it. Um, do you think the trailer explosion scene with the tiny person on the ground is Kali, military def coming to the lab to ruin plans? I do. I saw someone share that screenshot of the trailer with the person on the floor with Elle and Kali talking in the void, and Kali's sneakers are the same. So I unfortunately think that's her. Who knows if she's dead in that scene? I don't know. She could just be fallen to the floor in that moment for some reason. Um, I'm so glad Nancy is not being treated as a prize to be won by Steve or Jonathan. Same. Um, I'm glad Kali changed clothes, but they were still pretty terrible. But hey, she virtually had no reaction to seeing upside down. Guess her outfit doesn't matter. Um, I loved your season 2 video. Completely reshaped my opinion on how I viewed it when I rewatched the whole series for season 5. My second favorite season overall after season 1. Thank you, Lloyd. Um, yeah, and again, like with my video, you know what I mean? Like with how this all plays out now, I do feel like I have a little bit of a different stake in all of this because I really did put myself out on a limb there uh in defense of season 2 and in defense of the Lost Sister and in defense of Kali as a character. So that is why I am particularly very um harping on Kali in all of my reviews and reactions or whatever because it's like I have a little bit at stake. I got a little bit at stake in this, you know what I mean? Uh and I feel like that's another uh thing that this release schedule is contributing to with like the emotions where it's like Kali came back in episode 4 and it was like, "Oh my god, like yes! Like the Duffers like are have our backs, like most like epic Kali redemption arc incoming." And now we have volume 2 and it's like, "Oh, maybe this is not the way they should have taken her character." And now it's like, "Oh, but we still have the finale. It depends on what they do in the finale, how all of this could end up," you know what I mean? So it's just like I am just walking on eggshells with this show right now for like ultimately how my video essay will end up aging. I mean, I still stand by everything I said, especially, I did make sure to say that regardless of whether or not Kali comes back and therefore, what they might end up doing with her, The Lost Sister still stands as a standalone story in season 2 that contributed what it contributed, to Elle's character development and the lore of Hawkins Lab and the test subjects and, its intention for being what Elle needed to close the gate in the season 2 finale, right? I don't think any of that changes because they brought Kali back and what they may or may not do with her by the time this is all over. But audience response is the thing here, which again, we will get into. That monoculture point is so true because even by the time Game of Thrones and the first decade of MCU ended, Stranger Things was already well and truly embedded in the culture. Yeah. Now that Stranger Things is ending, nothing from the past years has reached the same level of zeitgeist power. Maybe the finale is being released in limited theaters is affecting the pacing as a whole. While I liked what they did with Kali, I wish the Duffer Brothers would have asked for advice from the OG director of the Lost Sister episode so the execution could have been better. I know. Poor Rebecca Thomas, right? The director of The Lost Sister. The one episode she directed ends up being so notorious. And I think that's one of the only episodes directed by a female director too, right? I'm pretty sure. Again, just so sad. So sad. I think Stranger Things will become a yearly rewatch like Harry Potter for a lot of people. Let's hope that the finale warrants that sort of legacy because, I mean, with Game of Thrones, I was saying to my friend, like, as soon as Game of Thrones fumbled the finale, the show almost entirely was erased from pop culture. Like like that is kind of how it feels like. Like it's almost like no one really talks about the show anymore. Like you go to pop culture sort of related stores, like I don't see Game of Thrones merch anymore, really, but you still find Harry Potter merch. You know, you still, as of right now, you can find Stranger Things merch, you know. Um, Ooh, like, you know what I mean? Like, I do worry that, like, depending on how the finale goes, Stranger Things could be, like, erased from the pop culture conversation, and it's just not even really worth revisiting anymore, depending on how it all ends. But at the same time, uh, I feel like if the finale ends up being really bad or something, it'll make the previous seasons look good. You know, I've seen a lot of people say, you know, hey, if the finale sucks, season 2 is a really good place to end it if you ever rewatch it. Um, which, you know, in hindsight actually helps season two's reputation. So I don't know. There's so many different ways this could all play out. Um, I know several people from different circles that rewatch season 1 and or season 2 around Halloween. I know I do always kind of get that itch around like September, October to watch Stranger Things. Specifically season 2, of course. Um, at this point, just bringing on the Mind Flayer. I've been waiting to see this thing in action for almost 10 years. Also, Vecna's hub is the Mind Flayer's physical form. I know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I wish that they at least maybe confirmed all of that in episode 7 at least, so that everything isn't rushed in episode 8. You know what I mean? They're going to have to tell us all of that. I mean, sure, they can tell us it with just like a couple scenes of like this is this, this is this, this is this. But is that going to feel impactful? Like, you know what I mean? I feel like they could have been telling the story a little bit more fluidly as it relates to Henry and all of that backstory. Because I feel like it's going to end up being just more exposition dumps in the finale. Like, this is what happened to Henry. This is what, da 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 da. This is the da 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 da. Here's the Mind Flayer now. And it's just like, okay. You know what I mean? I feel like there could have been a more languid way they could have been telling this over the course of volume 2, you know? So that by the time we get to the finale, we can just focus on this final battle and wrapping up all of the characters' storylines. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, that's probably that's what probably should have been the main focus, or where we should maybe be at heading into the finale. At least knowing that, okay, what's coming up next is the final battle and wrapping up all of our characters' storylines. Like, that should kind of be what the finale is. But instead, now the finale has so much to tackle in just, like we said, pretty much an hour and 20 minutes with a 40-minute epilogue. You know? So that's the only reason why I'm, you know, concerned and holding my judgment until we get the full picture. But all right, let's see here. All right. Oh, you know when young Henry killed the scientist in the cave? If you don't know the stage play, he looks like a psycho child who just murdered a man. It's hard to argue good in Henry. Again, that comes along with this whole thing of like maybe they should have taken the time in episodes 5, 6, and 7 to flesh out some of this first shadow stuff, right? I mean, there's a whole play of backstory that we're not getting in the show because it exists out there in the play, apparently. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I feel like in order to really pull all of it off, we really should have been getting a lot more of that backstory this whole time. And that's another reason why I'm worried for the finale. How are they going to squeeze all of that in? You know what I mean? They could have been telling the story way more naturally this whole time instead of shoving it all into the finale, probably with a lot more exposition again. You know what I mean? And again, we talked about this, I think, in one of my last lives about how the show don't tell aspect of the show has been greatly missing since around season 2 of like they could have been using the visual medium of a television show to have been showing us all of this stuff instead of just tell, you know what I mean? They could have been actually showing us who these characters are, showing us everything and just that's the more engaging way to tell the story. Um and that's a little bit of an issue I have with the writing in season 5. That's mostly my issue is that it's like it doesn't really the expositional approach doesn't inspire me to want to rewatch it for, for some reason because it's not as engaging as when you get to just like sit down and just live in the world. It's like people are just constantly just like telling you things and like and it's like okay. And it's like once you know the information, you don't necessarily want to sit down and rewatch everybody just tell you things again. You want to sit down and go on a journey where you're just like watching and experiencing what the characters are going through. Um, and I feel like there has been a shift in the writing, um, which is affecting some things. I hope they don't give Will an epilogue boyfriend. You know, I hate to say it, but I think that's what we're getting. I think we're getting epilogue boyfriend. And I'm not opposed because you know what I mean? Like people want to see Will be happy, clearly, because I think that's why so many people were rooting so hard for Byler was that like they wanted Will to truly get happiness in the end and he loved Mike and that's what he wanted. So they really wanted him to get that. Um, but I think it got to the point where that's the only way Byler fans would be happy or certain Will fans would be happy is that the only way they'd be happy with the outcome is if Mike and Will ended up together. And I think that's where we sort of lost the plot over, with those fans specifically, where it's like, try to keep a clear mind with like everything that's going on. You know what I mean? Um, and I feel like things got a little bit lost there where it's like, okay, let's think about it. Is Will's storyline completely awful now just because he's not going to end up with Mike? It's like, I don't think so, and it's like, again, judging from everything the show has shown us and told us up to this point, um, the fact that we got so close, like, and again, not me, I'm talking about like the people who, really believed this. The fact that we got so close to thinking that this was a real possibility is a little bit, um, I don't want to use these inflammatory terms, you know what I mean? I don't want to say it was crazy, because I do see where the Byler shippers got the idea from and the desire for, but it we did get a little carried away. And so I think that this idea that, it's terrible writing because Mike and Will didn't end up together and, you know, Will shouldn't get an epilogue boyfriend because why? And it's like, I think they will. And I think, I mean, again, I don't want to say it, but because I'm kind of over trying to make predictions at this point. But I think that would be nice. And I see it playing out because I mean I will say his coming out scene did sort of play out exactly how I kind of imagined and pictured it would probably end up going. So I do think that we will get a moment from Will in the epilogue, and I think it will be nice. I think it will be similar to what we saw with Vicky and Robin at the end of season 4, um, where There will be a guy, like, who knows if they will already be established as a couple in the epilogue or if they meet for the first time in the epilogue. I kinda can see that, um, where or, like, maybe it's someone who, like, they fill us in, maybe it's, like, someone he met, like, depending on how far the time jump is, are they gonna be in college? Maybe, like, maybe it's someone he met at college or something, um, and they've become friends, and there is maybe a little bit of tension between them that we're kind of told probably, uh, and then, maybe Will confides in Robin about it again, or, like, maybe he thinks back to that advice, and we see him and this guy sort of talking, and then maybe Will is going to try out that playful push again, and the guy pushes him back, and it's a little sweet moment where we know, like, okay, he's gonna be all right. He found his person. You know, what Robin told him in that episode, in episode 4 did finally come full circle, and it is paying off. It is working out for Will. Um, I could see that, and I kinda like that. I kinda like ending it like that, like, letting us know that he's gonna be okay. It kinda reminds me of, the ending of 500 Days of Summer, uh, which I love. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a great ending to a movie, and I don't wanna give that ending away in case nobody here has seen it, but, um, it is kind of the same idea of, like, and again, and this was a straight love story or a straight romance, right? And it's the same idea of, like, 500 Days of Summer was all about the character of Tom, that is his name, right? Wait, I haven't seen the movie in so long. 500 Days of Summer. Yeah. The character of Tom, um, starting this relationship with Summer. So okay, to be fair, they were already in a relationship, Tom and Summer, but it's the same idea. Hear me out, right? So Tom has this relationship with Summer, and he's building up this relationship, and he's building up this woman in his mind and in his life, and he believes that she is the one, right? And it ends up being that she doesn't necessarily feel the same way. She was just kind of on the ride for it, and then, you know, again, I don't wanna give things away, because I love the ending of that movie if anybody here hasn't checked it out, but basically, it's kind of the same idea of, like, he was so dead set on this girl being the one, and in the end, that wasn't the case, but that doesn't make the journey less impactful or less emotionally resonant. Um, I was in tears the first time I watched that movie by the end when I guess I'm giving it away. Sorry, spoilers for 500 Days of Summer if you haven't seen it. Mute it for a while, but it got to the point at the end of the movie where she's telling Tom, like, basically, like, just because I wasn't the right one for you, like, doesn't mean that, you know, you're not going to find happiness sort of idea, right? And there is, like, this powerful story there. You know what I mean? Like, and they tell you up front in that movie too, they're like, this is not a love story, but you still kind of get wrapped up in it, being that sort of thing, and you feel um the devastation that Tom feels in the end that, like, this didn't work out. But then we get the epilogue of the movie where Tom is about, I love the way I'm giving it away, but whatever, because I feel like I'm making a point here. Okay. Tom goes into, I believe it's a job interview. And there's this girl at the job interview, and they just sort of start talking, and they're getting along pretty well. And there's a little bit of flirtation. And he's like, huh. Because this is after the stuff with Summer has been put to rest. He knows it's not going to happen with her. Um, and they're sort of talking, and then she gets called in for the interview, or he gets called in. I don't know which way it goes, but either way, there gets to this point where they're about to part ways, but then he decides, wait a minute, like I'm kind of feeling a connection with this girl. Maybe I should try something. And so he's like, hey, do you want to get coffee after this or something? And she's like, sure. And then he's like, I didn't get your name. And she goes, Autumn. And it's just so great. Like, I love it. And he breaks the fourth wall and he looks at the camera and it's like, whoo, right? And then the timer like goes back to day one. And we know that he's going to be starting a new journey with this girl, Autumn. Uh, and I love it. Like it's such a good ending. Um, and it's one of those things where it makes you feel like, okay, like I don't know if it's necessarily he's gonna go through a whole relationship again that doesn't work out. I think it more so to me, it always felt like, okay, we're back to square one, but this time, like, it's gonna work out for him. You know what I mean? He's getting a second chance at love here, you know? And so I feel like this is basically the same story. Like Will was building up possibly, this fantasy Will was building up this fantasy with Mike in his head, um, of like and that's the whole thing with 500 Days of Summer too. They show you expectation versus reality. There's like a whole sequence where they do that, where it's like Tom had this whole perfect thing in his head of how this night with Summer was going to go, and then how it actually goes, which is not how he wanted at all. And I feel like I feel like it's sort of the same thing, where Will was building up this whole thing with Mike in his head, and you know, just completely even he was, overlooking the reality of the situation with Elle and all this stuff and just feeling like he might as well just try. You know what I mean? Like, I won't know until I try at least, and obviously it didn't work out that way for him, but I think he's gonna be all right in the end. And I think that epilogue boyfriend could be a nice way to wrap that up. I do. Because it is a little bit, and again, I know people take issue with it because it's like, oh, as far as a queer love story goes, they it should have been this thing, and everybody got this really great idea of, Byler being just so revolutionary and like all this stuff. And it's like, I get it, but I do think there is beauty in these other storylines that are maybe less conventional. Um, and again, 500 Days of Summer was a straight story that told that story. You know what I mean? I think it it's just it's the way life goes in a lot of situations. And I think we said this in a couple other lives of it's like if everyone you liked automatically liked you back, dating would be so much easier. You know what I mean? And is it sucky that, the main queer character on Stranger Things has to go through this sort of storyline where he doesn't necessarily get what he wants? I mean, sure. Excuse me, I'm burping now. Sure. But in the end, I think he will. And if it is epilogue boyfriend and, we didn't get like a full big love story with Will on the show. I understand that's what people are a little bit upset about. I still think that it'll be a nice ending for him, and it allows you to, you know, the fan fictions can run wild with this new character and, what Will's future will be like. And I kind of like that because when the show gives you something super concrete, then you're stuck with that. You know what I mean? What if you don't like what they do with Will and this guy or whatever, and we maybe don't like the character or whatever. It's like at least this would allow you to be like, okay, he's gonna be okay, and like he's gonna be happy, and like you can imagine what that future is like, you know. Um, so I kind of like that. I don't know. Anyway, that was my Byler tangent, I guess. That was my like final stance, I guess, on everything. um I love the concept of this season, but lack of emotional complexity and over exposition is spoiling it for me. On top of Kali, I just know I'm going to be so broken next week. I feel like Mike's character has also been sidelined. I do agree with that. After season 2, they also released an awesome book, which I happen to own. If that's Worlds Turned Upside Down, I have that as well. And again, it feels like it does sort of feel like seasons 1 and 2 were like this one story where the fact that that book exists and it pretty much ends before season 3. Beyond Stranger Things was something that existed like only for season 2. It does give at least some weird alternate dimension almost where like season 2 kind of was the end of the show with some of the content out there. Okay, Lilo, now my other cat is here. Let's go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I feel like a lot of characters have been sidelined to pave way for new ones. I think Steve will die and give his life for the team, and 11 will die. I no, I've told you, I don't think Steve can possibly die because of all the stuff with Dustin. I think they solidified that Steve is not dying in that scene with Dustin where he explicitly said, "You cannot die." And I said, "There's no season 6 to explore Dustin's grief from losing Steve. Look at how much his grief from Eddie has been affecting him in season 5. Losing Steve would be 10 times more devastating on top of that. They're not going to do that. They can't. Don't back down on your opinions. The Duffers have let us down, in my opinion. They even outright stated they were going to do more. All they did was give haters more ammo. Yeah, so we're segueing into the Collie stuff. Don't worry. I have a question. After Stranger Things ends, if you could go back and rewatch the series, do you think is your best or worst season in terms of story? I mean, obviously, I'm inclined to still say season 2. I mean, but I'm just so biased towards that season at this point. I just love it. There was just something about that season that just worked on all cylinders for me. Like it had, or fired on all cylinders for me, or whatever the expression is. It just like the emotion, the character work, the lore was like just the right amount of, you know, unknowable and scary for that reason. And the acting was like top tier. Obviously, I am someone who enjoyed The Lost Sister. I love the role that story played in that season. Like everything about season 2 just worked for me. I loved the epilogue. The snowball was perfect. The perfect bookend to where we left off with season 1. But again, I do feel like seasons 1 and 2 are almost like a perfect little 2-part story. So I still stand by that. But I do feel like season 2 just like it just expanded on season 1 in just so many great ways. And I feel like again, depending on how season 5 turns out, and even other than that, you know, I do still have my feelings about seasons 3 and 4. I don't think that they're as strong as 1 and 2. And I feel like oh god, what was the point I was going to make? It was about seasons 1 and 2 being a solid 2-part story. I completely lost my train of thought. Oh my god, I was making a point, and it was a point that I had been meaning to make a while ago too, and now I can't remember. Um, oh my, hopefully it comes back to me, but now I'm mad because I was cooking, you guys. I was cooking, and now I can't remember. Oh my goodness. Um, oh, I remembered. Okay. Yeah, I feel like Season 2 expanded on season 1 in so many great ways that it's like season 2 has ended up being the perfect taste of what's to come in seasons 3, 4, and 5 and whatever, but without losing that season 1 vibe and that season 1 tone and that season 1 magic to me. Like season 2 still had that. And so it's like this perfect middle ground of like you get the mind flayer, you get the Dustin and Steve bromance, you get Max, you know what I mean? You get Billy and whatever, you get Hopper and Elle being father and daughter, you know, you get Murray, you get Erica, you get all of these things that we get more of, you know, in the following seasons to varying degrees of success and satisfaction, you know, I think along the way. But, you know, season 2 is like that perfect middle ground where it's like you have the season 1 greatness still there, but you also get a taste of like what you would get in the following seasons. And so that's why I don't know. I just feel like season 2 is that sweet spot of like it gave us everything. It gave us everything, you guys. Like, you know, even Kali, like we got a little taste of Kali, like regardless of how she ends up in the finale, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, season 2 just gave us a little bit of everything, and I think it did it really, really well. And I stand by that, and I still just hope that history will have it when we look back at the show that it's like, "Hey, actually, season 2 was not that bad." You know what I mean? It's like season 2 was good. It was actually good, and then things just kinda went varying ways from there, you know, but and I thankfully have been seeing some people finally lump in season 2 with season 1 in some of their opinions of the show now. Like, I've been seeing a lot of people say, like, seasons 1 and 2 were really special, but then something shifted at 3, and which is true. That is true. You know, something shifted at season 3 and whatever, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I like because for a long time, people were lumping in season 2 with 3, 4, and now 5. Um, but now I have been, at least thankfully, seeing some people acknowledge that season 2 still had a lot of good going for it, you know? Um, but yeah. Ironically, the plot line with the pregnant women, Kali's lack of autonomy, and Elle's bleak fate reminds me the most of early Stranger Things. Same. And that's what's so funny too, right? Like obviously I'm biased towards season 2. Obviously I wanted to see Kali come back. But like Kali and Elle's reunion scene, that gave me that feeling of like this feels like Stranger Things again. Like, I don't know, there was just something about it, the way it was filmed, again, the way it was mostly a show don't tell moment. Like, we were just seeing this reunion and we were feeling the emotions and they were acting it, you know, that really harkened back to, you know, what I loved about the show in those first 2 seasons. And that, yeah, the reveal of the pregnant women was, oh, like my stomach dropped. And, you know, seeing Kali be captured and her head shaved and Axel get shot in the head and like all of that. And then them taking her blood just day after day after day after day. Oh my God. You know, that was very much like, oh, yeah. All right, let's see. I feel like it's probably time to get into the collie stuff. Now that you mentioned the epilogue time jump, however long it is, it's weird to think of these characters in the 90s. I know, right? And that's why I feel like it truly is going to be the end of these characters because Stranger Things in the 90s just like doesn't really make sense. It's so just intrinsically an 80s show at its core. Let's see. Yeah, I wish Kali talked to literally anyone else in the party instead of just being there, maybe make some human connection. Um, I wish Kali got involved with the Byler triangle by giving advice. Um, the hive mind keeps being weaved into the storytelling, specifically with Will's powers and other details, and the hive mind and mind flayer particles both imply the mind flayer is still the final boss. Yeah, something Mr. What's It said to the kids implies he has an agenda with the mind flayer. Yep, I caught that too. The mind flayer not being brought back would be extremely underwhelming. Yeah. I mean, I think the Duffers um, uh, kind of already stated that the finale is going to, talk all about his connection with the mind flayer, but it's like I really feel like they shouldn't have saved it for the last episode. Um, Yeah, as much as I'm not a fan of season 3, the writing was okay. The exposition stuff amplified with Vecna's introduction to the series. Uh, yeah. They put too much stock in the finale being in the cinema and the play. Both can be said. Uh, Yeah, and on final note of sacrifice is that one shot of Will looking at the wormhole drawing with his head lined up in the circle. Spooky stuff. Yeah, I know, right? Like that makes you wonder about him. Like maybe he's gonna have to be part of a sacrifice, you know? But I feel like it's still gonna end up working out in the end with like nobody actually dying. Um, yeah, hypothetically, if season 5 doesn't wrap up well, the first two seasons are pretty contained and satisfying on their own for me anyway. I agree. I agree. I think seasons 1 and 2 are like a really nice two-part story where I feel and I hope that like no matter how this turns out that like seasons 1 and 2 can still have their place in pop culture at least and like still be loved and cherished, despite how anything might turn out. Um, Hot take, but Lucas, Max, Dustin love season 2 triangle is way better than Jonathan, Nancy, Steve triangle. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like people tried to say that like the whole Byler situation was sucky because no other character experienced, a love triangle with disappointment. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, Dustin experienced heartache, and then still uh found Susie, which by the way, Susie's not around either. I feel like they did they did just sort of forget about a lot of people. Owens, Susie, um, I don't know who else, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Um, who said the mind flayer is coming back? Henry is the big bad, not the mind flayer. My friend. Where's my shirt? This is one example, which I wore before. This is a shirt, season 5 merchandise. All friends welcome. Season 5 character posters. and just the shadow monster mind flayer. Um, I don't know why they would put the Shadow Monster Mind Flayer on official season 5 merch if he was not coming back. But there is no Vecna on this design. It is just the Mind Flayer. There's been some other merch that has been released showing like the Mind Flayer overlaid on top of the layer that we've seen now with the spires and everything. They show there's like the Mind Flayer over that. Um, and then like a little like hierarchy thing on the side with Vecna and the Mind Flayer and the Demodogs and all this stuff. So I the Mind Flayer is definitely still involved here. Um, and I think that it's always been pretty clear that like Henry has been flayed, perhaps. You know, that's still my theory. That's like the big theory. Apparently, a lot of this has been confirmed by the play as well, which is like weird. But yeah. All right. And there goes my cat going wild. I don't know what's going on with him right now. All right. I think it's just about time to finally get into more of the Kali stuff in depth. Um, oh yeah, I was pissed that Sullivan survived, but why didn't he tell anyone about the tunnels? Yeah, I was shocked actually to see that Sullivan was still alive. Like I did feel as though his death scene was just like a blink and you'll miss it type thing. Um and it seemed a little weird to me that for his character to go out like that, but again, the fact that we see him talking lying down on a cot speaking through his third degree burns, I was like, they couldn't even commit to killing Sullivan, you guys. Like, that is pretty crazy. Oh my god, it's crazy that he's still alive. Anyway, leaving now, but I will rewatch the Kali stuff later when the live is up. Okay, so that's my cue to probably start talking about it. Um, so here we go. Oh, and it's kind of perfect. We're like right sort of at the 2 hour mark, which means typically I wrap these up in about 3 hours. So saving Kali for like the final hour here. All right. Let me gather my thoughts. I agree. Um, that okay, how am I going to word this? Because I was thinking about it all day. I was thinking about it all day. Um, I am genuinely shocked and confused by the direction they have gone with Kali. And when I say that, I mean shocked and confused that they would, that it seems as though they haven't learned their lessons from the Lost Sister. They have had 8 years to sit with the fandom and audience's response to that episode. They've had 8 years to understand the issues that people had with that episode and with Kali's character, right? To me, and this is why I was, nervous about how they were going to utilize her in season 5 because it's such a delicate situation to bring a character as controversial as Kali back, right? And I knew that if they took just one wrong step or perceived wrong step with her character, that it would be over for her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people are already going into season 5 and the knowledge of her returning negatively. They already don't like her. They already don't want to see her. They've She is one of these characters that is just so, still to me, unfairly hated to just an insane degree, that, like, Billy does not get the same amount of hate, you know? There are just so many characters. I mean, even Henry does not get the same amount of hate, I feel, as Kali. Um, and it's just it in because of that, bringing her back was always going to be an extremely delicate situation that they had to navigate very carefully. And I am confused because I thought for sure the only way to bring Kali back would be to clearly redeem her character and the lost sister, to make it clear. Like, you can leave a little bit of, um, morally gray stuff in there for her, like a little bit of doubt, like tiny doubt, to keep it a little bit interesting, right? But at least making it very clear what side she is most likely on. You know what I mean? The way they have written her so far has allowed people to see the worst in her. It has allowed people to assume the worst of her. It has allowed people to pile on the hate even worse than before. The number one thing everybody is saying is that they think she's evil. They are jumping to the conclusion that she's working with Vecna. She's going to kill Elle. Um, you know, uh, just all this stuff. The worst theories imaginable about her and her character. Um, so that is upsetting because I thought for sure the only way they would bring her back is if they were going to make sure from the jump, which I thought they made a great um uh set up for with her reunion scene with Elle. That was so emotional, it was so genuine, and a lot of people started to reevaluate the idea of Kali coming back from that scene. It was like, "Oh, like, this is gonna be kind of awesome. They're gonna, like, use her powers, like, she's gonna be part of the final fight, like, she's seeming like, she's teaming up with Elle. It's gonna be, like, a good sisterly bond, plus Will to take down Vecna." Like, people were getting excited about that. And I've said before that again, learning from the mistakes, again, mistakes, I don't have issues with the lost sister, but the mistakes of the lost sister, of the issues people had with Kali's character. What are the common complaints? That she is useless, that she is pointless, that she did not connect to the overall main narrative enough, that 11 could have decided that Hawkins was her home and, like, learned all this different stuff about herself without Kali. She could have come to that conclusion a different way, right? These are the common complaints of the lost sister. Again, to me, the only way they could have brought her back is to do the opposite of all of that. Give her um give her a clear-cut purpose in the season that relates to the overall arc. Explore her connection to Henry a little bit more. Give us some of those answers, right? Give her something more substantial to do as far as her powers go, right? Make use of those. Show her as being useful. And then the other thing that people have mentioned in the chat, integrate her into the group. That is, I think, one of the biggest missteps they've done with Kali this season is that no one cares about her. No one cares about her. No one in our Hawkins group has made any effort to talk to her, to get to know her. We didn't get an official meeting of Kali meeting Elle's friend group. She's just there suddenly. She's just in the background during all of these group conversations, contributing nothing ultimately. Um, and that is so sad. Like, they should have given us, because think about it, we have another character with superpowers. This should have been a huge revelation for the Hawkins group that, like, whoa, wait a minute. All of the other test subjects weren't dead. There's still one left here. Like, there's basically like another 11, so to speak, you know, quote unquote. And we got nothing. We got no reaction from the group. She's just suddenly there. They are so lax about another superpowered character joining their fight, joining their group. Like, they made no effort to like have fun with that dynamic, right? By adding Kali to the mix. Like, what does that look like? How does everybody react to it? Nothing. She's just suddenly there. And because of that, it makes her feel shoehorned in. It makes her feel like it doesn't make her feel like a true part of the story and a true part of the group. Um, and again, it says maybe Elle told everyone about her. Yeah, I mean, evidently, yes, that is what happened, but we should have at least seen it. We should have seen it because it makes Kali's inclusion feel very cold. It's not doing anything to endear her to audiences because it's seeming like nobody even on the show cares about her. She has not developed a relationship with anyone other than Elle. Um, and now that she has developed somewhat of a relationship with Hopper, they've decided to make it so that Hopper hates her, evidently. They have written it to show that Hopper thinks she's up to something. They've written it to show that Hopper has said that he will kill her if she does anything to hurt Elle. Like, I get it, but it is so harsh. The language towards Kali's character is so harsh, and it's giving viewers permission to do the same. It is giving viewers permission to hate her, to not trust her, to want her to die. The the response on social media has been like low key devastating to read. And as I've said, like, this is the worst possible outcome as far as audience response goes to her character's return. She is far and away the most hated character of the season. Um, the language that people are using about her is just so nasty. I have never seen the word bitch thrown around more maliciously than I have seen it more frequently and more maliciously than I've seen it being thrown around uh, about Kali, um, which is just a whole other thing. Like, you know, people have presented the idea of like, is misogyny involved in the hatred for Kali? Is racism involved in the hatred for Kali? You know, which I do think could absolutely play a factor because I've seen it coming out in the comments about people now. People feeling like suddenly now it's okay to be calling her the Indian and saying like Indian stereotypes negatively about her. I have seen a lot of that. Um, and it's like the way I might actually get emotional about this, only because it's just like, it is so sad to see. And it almost just makes me feel worse about like humanity almost, about the way it's like, this is the way we're responding to it. And then on top of that, poor Linnea. I went to her Instagram. Her comment section is being flooded with similar messages. People calling her a bee, right? Uh, people saying F you. People telling her, you have single handedly ruined the show. You never should have come back. Um, you know, people not being able to separate fiction from reality of telling her, how dare you tell Eleven to kill herself? Like, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, like, you know, low key like death threats in Linnea's comments, you know, die, B. Like all this stuff, like, like you know what I mean? And it's like that is what I mean by this is the worst possible, literally the worst possible outcome for how Kali's return could have gone as far as the audience reception of her. Um, and again, people saying, I think we all know who the finale death is going to be, and we are not going to care. Right? No one's going to care because everybody's rooting for Kali to die right now. They are on Twitter saying, this bee needs to die. Get her out of here. Oh my God. Hate her so much. And it's even worse than before. Like people are saying, you know, I actually didn't mind her that much in season 2 and I was reserving some, you know, benefit of the doubt for her, but oh my God, now I get it. Now I get why she's so hated. Oh my God, I hate her so much. Like she needs to die. Get out of here. Never should have come back. And this is the other thing of how I knew that if they were to take one wrong step with her character, that all of the blame would once again be placed on her. And that's what we're seeing. I'm seeing people say, I'm noticing a common theme here. If Elle's sister is involved, the episode sucks. You know, if Elle's sister is involved, the season is terrible. That's what people are saying. Um, and they're taking all the issues people have with season 5 and they're throwing her into it as like, yep, she's part of the problem, never should have come back. And it's doing literally the opposite. Her return is doing literally the opposite so far of what us season 2 defenders and Kali defenders and Lost Sister defenders could have hoped for. Um, and and once again, I just feel like I had hoped that the Duffers learned from the mistakes of episode 7 and would have done like everything in their power um, to sort of make sure that, first of all, that like Linnea had some protection as an actress, because you know that, again, any wrong step with Kali would result in backlash towards Linnea again. You know what I mean? And it feels like they maybe did not think that through even though they have said that they wanted to do justice to both Kali and Linnea. And I'm saying, how has volume 2 done that at all? For those of us who already empathize with Kali's character and do view her as a sympathetic character, we see where she's coming from. We understand where she's coming from. But I think the Duffers maybe put too much, um, I don't know, too much faith in people being able to understand that. And put too much faith in, like, I don't know, people just maybe being interested in her coming back in general and just, like, waiting it out, allowing people to wait it out. No, people weren't gonna do that. And I feel like they sincerely, like, misunderstood the severity of how people negatively feel about Kali, like, um, that people literally hate her on sight. So if they don't immediately bring her in a way that makes her feel like part of the group, makes her feel useful, establishes that her heart and everything is mostly, in the right place, that she is here to help, um, that it was not gonna go well for Kali and her character, and by extension, um, redeeming season 2 and The Lost Sister, right? If anything, all they're doing so far is confirming what people thought about her before, confirming that she's useless, she's pointless, she has no real role to play in the overall story. Um, and, you know, that is what so far the writing and portrayal has given to the general audience. That is what they're getting from it. And that is why I say that they feel like they have been giving permission to say these things even louder about her. Um, and now, again, I do say the first misstep was not properly introducing her to the group and not properly making her feel like she possibly has a little bit of a place there. You know what I mean? Having our characters care about her on some level and root for her on some level. No, instead, we have Hopper fighting with Kali, which, I mean, I understand that. That makes sense. Um, but it is just too intense. They're having Hopper be a little bit too intense about it, planting the seeds in viewers' heads that Kali is up to something, um, saying that he would kill her. This is a young girl we're talking about. Like, yeah, she's not the same age as Elle, but they also, I think they made her call her a child at one point. Did he call her a child? I feel like he did, even though she's supposed to be like 23. Um, you know what I mean? So that's like very harsh language coming from Hopper, that he would like kill this girl who is a victim of abuse and a test subject as Elle was. Um, and I don't like that. Like, that just seems very cruel. Um, and it's, again, giving the audience permission to feel like they can say the same sort of stuff. Um, and it's like, I don't know. I just feel like if they were gonna bring her back, that this was not the way to go about it. Like, the playbook should have been very clear of like, okay, we got to do the opposite if we want to actually make her character work for people. And again, I'm not saying to do a complete 180 and have her be the nicest, most awesome character ever and completely on our side and like whatever. Like, she can still have some of that depth, but I don't think that they've done a good enough job um of making her feel like she belongs in the story, and giving her enough purpose and making the best use that they possibly could of her character. Because that is where a lot of the hate comes from, that she's pointless. And so what do? They give her almost nothing to do. She's standing around. None of the other characters are interacting with her. Um, the only interaction she does get with the other characters is Hopper hating her. You know what I mean? It's like, I just really can't believe it. Um, and then again, the only uh, reason she has been apparently brought back is to tell our main heroine that she needs to kill herself. How is any of this doing justice to the character of Kali and Linnea? Like, I am struggling to see it. I am struggling to see why the Duffers would bring her back with apparently the intention to do justice to her, and that it was a big swing they were excited about, and that they were excited for everybody to see how she fits in, and that she has such an important role to play, and that she's heavily utilized in the second half of the season. Where? Because I'm not seeing it, and neither is everybody else, clearly. Um, that's what I am upset about, and I'm struggling to see, and it is really hurtful because, again, the release schedule is kind of hurting it, because everybody has made up their mind about Kali. And it's the roller coaster again, right? End of episode 4, people were excited. They were like, "Oh man, they're bringing back the sister. This has potential. Like this could be awesome." And the tide was changing. People were flip-flopping. We got positive reviews coming in for The Lost Sister saying like, "Oh, I feel like, everything's recontextualized now. Like, wow." Then we get volume 2. And right away, we're getting people coming to these conclusions of Kali's a traitor. She's going to turn on everybody. She's acting suspicious. Um, Kali is evil. She's working for Vecna. She's pointless. She's useless. All she's doing is telling Elle to kill herself. Be die. Like, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, right? They're making up their mind about her right now. Like, and the thing is though, it's like, this is the thing. They already had their minds made up about her based on season 2. And that is what people are saying. They were like, "Oh, like a lot of people like, I already hated her in season 2, but this is just solidifying it for me." You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why I fear that whatever they might have planned for her in the finale, it's not going to matter. It's not gonna matter. People already have their minds made up about her. They already don't like her. They are sticking to that. They're not gonna wanna suddenly flip if she, um, does some grand sacrifice in the end and we find out that, her heart has truly been in the right place this whole time. That she does do something to help the greater good. Like, it's not gonna matter. It's gonna land flatly with people because they don't care about her. They want her to die. Right? And that's why it's like they really have done, like I know they're saying they brought the character back to do her justice, but they clearly haven't. Like they clearly haven't uh done. Because again, I feel like part of the reason they brought her back was to redeem her in the eyes of fans. And if that was part of their goal, they have failed spectacularly. Um, and that is what's upsetting to see. Um, and and yeah, and it all sort of what am I trying to say? Like, because I see a message someone said, but who cares what they think? Like, who cares? Um, it matters what they think because look at what's happening with season 5 right now, right? People set the tone, people set the narrative, right? And the narrative right now is that season 5 like sucks, right? Because that's what everybody's saying and that's what everybody thinks, right? And it just creates this frustrating um sensation and feeling as a fan, right? It's not fun. It's not fun to see just such negativity all the time. Like, it's just, like I can't explain it, but I guess especially for Kali's character, it stings more just because of how hated she's always been. Like, her return should have been um like a pretty cool redemption, right? It should have been this moment where um she finally, like, the tide finally turns and it's like, okay, we've made perfect use of this character. We've given her a purpose. We've given her a real reason to be here, which is what they claim they set out to do. And again, I'm not seeing it, and neither is anybody else apparently. Um, you know what I mean? That's what it should have been. Like, I can't, I stand by that, and that's why I'm just so confused by the direction they've taken because it's just doing nobody any favors. It's doing season 2 no favors in the long run by bringing Kali back and having this be the sort of response that she's getting. Um, it's doing the Lost Sister no favors in the long run, which I was sure they would have wanted to redeem the reputation of. Um, and it's doing Kali no favors as a character. And so that is all of that adds up to her return once again just seeming pointless and seeming like there was no real purpose, that they shoehorned her in there. And that is not how it should be feeling. Um, and that's upsetting. It's upsetting. It's upsetting to witness, and because of how Kali has gone so far, it's only adding to the season 5 hate. Uh and that is sad, right? Because we already went through this. The way I'm going to get emotional. Like, the way we already went through a season being tarnished by the existence of Kali, you know, a season already where she was the scapegoat of it, where she was the easy thing to place blame on. It's happening again, except almost even worse now because the overall reception to season 5 currently right now is even worse than season 2. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, season 2 had a pretty bad reputation, but it was largely tied to the Lost Sister. Um, and like a couple other like little complaints that just, the Lost Sister plus those other complaints resulted in season 2 being considered the worst. right? But now with season 5, it's like you got the Lost Sister connection. You got all this other stuff that people don't like, the writing, the approach to certain things, Will and everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just this whole storm where it's just even worse than I could have imagined. And just once again, Kali is being dragged into it. And, you know, Linnea is receiving death threats and whatever. Um, and it's like, why? Why? I am just so at a loss. It feels like they're just bringing Kali in to be a scapegoat slash plot device, and then they claim they managed to kill a character off. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. It's like they've had 8 years to realize that she, has been the scapegoat of season 2. And that is why people don't like season 2. And that is why people don't like the Lost Sister. And that's why people don't like Kali. So let's bring her back again to do the same thing again, basically. Give her no real purpose. Just throw her in there and then kill her off. Why? Why? And again, I've said because of what they've done with her in these last 3 episodes, her death is not even going to matter. Like it will technically, contextually, like narratively, so to speak, but part of creating entertainment and making films and TV um, is that you want to create an emotional response for the audience. Like you want these certain things to land for the audience, and if the intention is that her death is supposed to really matter and whatever, it's like it's not going to have that impact because they haven't put in the work to make her character matter more. In these last 3 episodes, they haven't put in the work to make her character matter more to the story and to audiences and to the other characters in the show. So by the time she eventually does die or sacrifice herself or whatever, which I'm assuming she will, people are either going to be celebrating because they already hate her and they're already rooting for her to die, or it'll happen and people will just sort of be like, okay. Like you know what I mean? Like that is going to be the majority reaction to Kali eventually dying. Um, Only a few of us out there will be emotionally impacted by it because we um already that because we do empathize with her character. We do see where she's coming from, and we have been the people who have been giving her the benefit of the doubt and have been seeing the good in her and like have been hoping to see that come to fruition on the show. And and we understand that she is a victim of the lab abuse. And you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like they've shown audiences that they have shown that she has lost everybody, that she went through hell with Dr. K. Um, Her discovery of the pregnant women was also devastating. Like, people should understand where she's coming from, but they don't because they hate her. And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, that's why it's like, and again, they hate her as well for reasons that relate to, I think, not being as open to understanding her character and the moral layers that come with that and whatever. It's just they just hate her. And because of that, um that is why bringing her back was so delicate and really needed to have a lot more thought and care put into it than they have done. Um, yeah. So, um, I feel like that's maybe all my thoughts on it, but you know, it unfortunately is what it is. Uh, and it's just sad. You know what I mean? That's all it is. It's just sad to see, the loss of potential, um, and to see the character, not like you want. I just can't explain it. Like, again, I see again, like, what's the point? Like, just like what you like. If other people don't like it, whatever. Ratings, who cares? Whatever. That's Netflix's problem. It's like, well, it's like you want to see it do well, right? It's like if you're a fan of something, I feel it's like you don't want to see it fail. You don't want to see such negativity surrounding this thing that you love. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's just it's just annoying. It's just annoying to have to deal with. It's annoying, um, for everybody involved. It's annoying for Kali's actors to have to be receiving such hateful, hateful comments. Um, it's not fun. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just sad because all of this could have been avoided, if they did a little bit better work with her character. Um, and it's sad to see it go down this way. It's just sad. It's just sad. It's like whether or not, because it becomes the whole thing again of like this feeling of like feeling like you need to defend it because nobody else does. Like, nobody else cares. Nobody else is bothering to try to see anything from Kali's perspective. Um, Nobody is trying to like see the fact that she is right, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, she's making valid points. But again, I do agree that like bringing her back just to try to make these points and once again still just try to manipulate 11 into doing something she wants to do, which is more or less basically what she's doing. It does somewhat feel like a just a retread of what she did in The Lost Sister to people. Um, that's not helping. It's not helping, you know? Showing Elle visions to try to persuade her into killing herself. And like it's like what are we doing? Again, it's like again, I see where she's coming from. I see what the intent is, but it's not working clearly. Um and it's sad. They really should have done something uh a little they this was the opportunity to really try to do something totally different um with Kali. And again, because like Linnea said that she felt like her season 4, episode 4 reveal was like a first reveal of like this new version of Kali, like this new character she's going to be this season. And it's like it does, like, while I do see that, it does ultimately feel like more of the same for a lot of the people that hated her. Like, she's manipulating Elle, she's not really contributing much, and whatever, you know what I mean? It's just cementing their previous feelings about her. And that's sad. That's not the way this should have gone. That's not the way it should have gone. And that's just so devastating. Um, but you know, I have again, you know what I mean? I feel like it's one of these situations now where, over the last 8 years, all of the Lost Sister haters were, like, in my head so hard, like, almost feeling like they were gaslighting me into, like, thinking all these things about Kali's character, that she's terrible, that she's whatever, that she's useless, that, all this stuff that they're never gonna bring her back, whatever, but then they did, right? They did bring her back, which is why that moment felt so insane to experience. Um, but now it's happening again of like everybody insisting that she's gonna be evil, insisting that she's gonna turn on everybody. Nobody likes her. Again, like, you know, and that's making me nervous now again for the finale of like, what if they're right? Like, you know what I mean? What if she ends up being a total villain? Um, like what if they that there is no thing coming for her where they do sort of redeem her and give her like a really good moment. Like, you know what I mean? I'm hoping uh for the best, but it is a little bit of this experience again where it's just sort of like I'm on the edge of my seat of like how is this actually going to turn out? Um and everybody and the odds are stacked against her again of like, nobody wanted her to come back, and now it's like nobody really wants to see her do anything good, and if she does, no one's really gonna care, so it's tough. It's tough. Um, okay, yeah, no, okay. I know I'm speaking in the terms of, like, everybody understanding the context, um, because I understand the context, so that's how I'm speaking. Because someone just said, she's telling her to kill herself because, of course, Elle wants to save her friends, and by saying it's the only way, using that word forces her to make the choice. She doesn't want to help her friends once more. And then there was something else of, like, she's not telling Elle to kill herself, she's saying they should stay on the other side of the wormhole. I know, but it is coming across as a suicide pact, which is kind of the idea of like, if we're not here, they can't use our blood or L's blood specifically to create more numbers. And Kali in particular is also just feeling suicidal herself, I feel like at this point, because she has had things just constantly ripped from her. She has no hope, really. And so people don't like that because it seems like she has lost her hope for her future and she's trying to take Elle down with her. And therefore, people hate her. It's like, Elle has a life and has something to look forward to. So what if you don't, Kali? Like, too bad. Don't take Elle down with her. Like, you just go kill yourself then, or whatever. And I'm saying kill yourself because that is technically what they're like implying. But I do think it's probably going to end up that they just sort of end up being like, transported somewhere else maybe or something, like, I don't know, because I do feel like that Elle can't die, and if she does die, it's gonna have to be a death again, quote, unquote, like, not a real death, like, um, you know what I mean? And so it's seeing how that plays out is another thing, but, um, yeah, it's just again, it's just the way it's being presented is just not really a good look. It's just not really a good look for Kali. Um, Even if some of us do see where she's coming from, do understand that she is basically speaking truths about like the military will always find you. You know, it's true. There will always be another Papa. There will be another Dr. K. There will be someone after her, you know, and it is a cycle. She said, maybe you'll be fine for a while, but it'll catch up to you, and you will always have that stress on your mind. Um, and you will always have to be in hiding to some degree. Do you want that? Is that how you want to live? Like, or is a true happy ending even possible? You know? Um, yeah. And and I think so they've brought Kali back to basically that's her main purpose is to like plant these ideas and concepts in Elle's head. Um, and that's about it. Like that's sort of her main purpose again is just sort of like um, you know, what's the word? Like again, sort of like being in support of Kali's character, as someone said that like she's a supporting character. That's the whole thing. It's like I get it, but other characters on the show are supporting characters as well, and they get more to do than Kali. You know what I mean? It's like she is literally one of the only other characters with superpowers, and they're not doing anything with that. They're not giving her enough importance. Like, you create a character with superpowers, you bring her back, but you don't actually try to tie her into the narrative in a more satisfying way than just trying to tell Elle that this is the only way that they can defeat Vecna, basically, is just if they vanish forever, like, and potentially just be another sacrifice so they can avoid killing the other characters that people care about more. That's sad. That is sad. You know what I mean? I think that that is a sad use of her character. Um, anyway, once again, someone just like rang my doorbell and I don't know why. I was trying to see if I had maybe gotten a delivery or something, but it always worries me when someone rings the doorbell because I'm like, who is there? Like, it's 6 o'clock at night on a Saturday. Like, why is someone ringing my doorbell? Um, let's see. Thoughts on Kali? Oh, we already just we talked about most of it just now. when the uh when the stream is up afterwards as a video on my channel, you can uh do that, or you can watch it then. Or can't you scrub backwards on the live right now, and like if you scrub back about maybe like 30 minutes, you'll get to the start of the whole Kali conversation. Um I feel like so many questions are unanswered and we are going all over the place for 7 episodes while nothing is answered and we only have 2 hours to finish everything. I don't feel like nothing has been answered. Like, we did get the scientific explanation of the upside down. Max has returned. Um, but we have this information from Kali about, all the pregnant women like wanting to start the program up again. But I feel like a lot of this stuff has only uh caused more questions. You know what I mean? Like they reveal that the upside down is a wormhole. Like, that concept of its in and of itself, like that shot of Steve's car flying out into space, like that alone is just kind of like mind blowing of like what, which kind of presents a lot more like questions in your head. Um and Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't know. Um, and then yeah, those are kind of like the biggest things we got out of the last few episodes, and like Will actually being able to hack into Vecna enough to break his leg. I mean, that's a bit of a an important development there. Like we know it is possible for him to do that, but Vecna also was like, get out, get out, get out, and kind of hurt Will. So yeah, there is a lot of um there's a lot. um um although it's almost just about getting close to the time to wrap up. Um I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. I did see that there was a new interview with Linnea, um, where she said that she was not playing Kali with deceit in any way. That she was performing the role, um, very much so as like once again, similarly to the Lost Sister of like she genuinely believes that this is what they have to do. And that's what I always thought. That was like, in The Lost Sister, she genuinely believed that taking out these former Hawkins Lab employees is a way that they'll be able to heal. And I guess now she also genuinely believes that this is the only way that they'll be able to put an end to everything. Um, and she also said in the interview that she does desperately care or deeply care about 11. Um, so again, I think we just have the wires crossed for some reason when it comes to Kali's character. Like everything seems to somehow get lost in translation, no matter what with her character. Like again, like some of us have always like viewed her that way, but clearly so many people have not. Um, and once again, it's like the same situation of like that is where she's coming from, but people don't see it. ah, Linnea Berthelsen interview. Someone asked for the link to it. All right, so I don't know if I can you put links in the chat or no? You can oh yeah, it does work. Okay. Yeah, so it's Linnea Berthelsen breaks down Kali's Stranger Things 5 return and shaving her head on camera. So yeah, let's skim through this together here. Except there's annoying ads on the screen. All right. So again, they're saying a lot of the same stuff of like we've talked about bringing her back before, but there was not a narrative or thematic reason to bring her back. But it still felt like this loose end where 11 just left her there. What happened to her? And so again, that now that we see what they've done with her, that quote does sort of feel like they did just bring her back to bring her back. Because it's like, yeah, what happened to her? We might as well like show her again so that there's no loose ends. And it's like you probably should have put a little bit more thought. I don't know. So Linnea says that when they got in contact with her, it felt like it could have just been to catch up. Something like that they were very supportive of things that I've done over the years, but it wasn't. The duo of the Duffer Brothers finally cracked the code for Kali's return. She says, I think I was never mentally attached to come back and do anything, but it was very lovely to see that they had something they wanted to do with the character, and we took it from there. Um, as for shaving her hair, it was her first day of principal photography. It in one take, but she didn't do it with Matt and Ross. She did it with Frank Darabont. Um, and here we go, right? This is where we get into like her talking about the essence of the character. It's like the hair shaving scene for Berthelsen became symbolic of a rebellious character's of control. Quote, it's taking her back to captivity, basically, to everything that she fears the most. That's something that I didn't even touch for season 2. So it's very different. Um, right? So again, I think that was clear from the sequence of the flashback of her being captured, having her hair shaved. Like she was devastated in that scene. She was clearly crying. Like that was supposed to be a moment where you're supposed to feel for her character. But again, it just apparently didn't land for people because people just hate her on sight. Um, and, you know, seeing her friends be killed in front of her and seeing Dr. K take all that blood for her from her like just over and over and over. I felt so bad. Like I was like how could you not understand her point of view after that? Like that she like I would feel completely hopeless too. That, you know, she was free to some extent and then just ended back there almost even worse than before. However, I do agree with some people saying, like, well, Collie, maybe you shouldn't have been going around committing murder sprees of former Hawkins Lab employees, therefore drawing attention to yourself. And maybe you could have lived a decent life if you didn't do that. Um, but at the same time, I do also think that she is correct in that the government will always find them because Elle wasn't living a reckless life and the government still found her, you know? So, um, let's see. Uh, to Berthelsen's point, Kali is not the same figure we met in season 2. That edgy teen launching her own rebellion against those that experimented on her. In episode 5 of the final season, Shock Jock further reveals Dr. K took her blood and injected it into pregnant women, also held captive, in the hopes of breeding more weapons, i.e., psychic children. It's why she goes to 11 that warning that all of this won't end by killing Vecna. They will forever be hunted by Kay or whoever the next Brenner replacement is. Berthelsen described the season 5 story for her character as very vulnerable and daunting. It started from scratch with the character given the circumstances of what she's going through. It's a gear shift, it's a whole different person. What happens to people when they go through something that's quite traumatic and different, you can change. So I think I allowed myself to say, season 2, that persona, whatever happened is there, but I'm going to start all over and do prep from the beginning and see what's going to come out naturally. We stayed what stayed with the character was that guardedness, that way of seeing the world, that mistrust. And I think people are maybe misreading that. They're misreading the mistrust as her being someone to mistrust instead of her being mistrusting of the world and, you know, other people maybe or something. Which people could argue that could translate into her being so mistrusting of the world that she sides with Vecna and decides to rebuild a new world. You know what I mean? I don't know. But then we get into it here. Mistrust is certainly something Hopper feels towards Kali. Heading into volume 2, the fan theories ran the gamut of has Vecna already warped Kali's mind to will Kali betray 11? From the jump in Shock Jock, Kali convince 11 that they need to go down with the ship, that the only way to stop future Dr. Brenners and Dr. K's is to remain in the Upside Down, excuse me, you guys, when they blow up the wormhole. In the lead up, oh my gosh, guys, I'm getting burps hiccups now because I'm hungry. Ah! In the lead up to the series finale, Hopper is wary of Kali's intentions. The key to playing those mind games with the audience says comes down to a very actory thing to say. What does the character want? And now this is interesting. We didn't have the last script for the last episode as we were filming. So I can't play deceit ever. I can only play moment to moment. Everything she does is coming from a good place, and she deeply cares about Eleven, but she also cares about being worthy of love. I think that's something that's the undercurrent of Kali. Maybe the way Eleven is loved, but also just as a human being. Oh, that's so sad. Um, when everything is so transactional, everything becomes about what can I do? Do I need to save the world? Do I need to save Eleven? Who do I need to save in order to receive that love? If you think about orphans, if you think about people who are lost to some extent in general, we're all just trying to find ways to love. That is so like I'm literally like I got tears in my eyes. And that's what makes me like people don't see that. They don't see that side of Kali's character. They just hate her and they don't care to look deeper and try to make sense of her perspective. Like that is so sad that like all she wants is to be she was playing it like but something I'm confused about though is we didn't have the last script for the last episode as we were filming. I thought didn't they say that they had everything done before they started filming, or was that for season 4? I think I'm getting my memories mixed up, but I thought they had everything already done. So that's concerning a little bit. Um, hmm. And what else here? Berthelsen recognizes when they reunited Kali and Eleven. Um, she said, I get really emotional seeing her as the character, Berthelsen says. I think she says about seeing Eleven that way. But there's also, sorry guys, but also there's something there like a connection. There's something that feels so true. And I think that's why maybe we can get that out of the scene. We're very present with each other. We got to do some pretty intense scenes, which is very rare that you get that. Sometimes you need to work a bit to get to know each other. It was very emotional seeing it, but also seeing what she did with the character over the years, which I don't think is easy by any means to develop a character over so many seasons. Another thing that's quite brilliant to see. Um, and then Linnea does finish by saying, this has been said before, but it's just so emotional. I haven't read that specific episode without crying by the end. It was really brilliantly done the way they wrote it. So, okay. So clearly it sounds to me like, I mean, obviously she's not going to say that she's unhappy with her ending or give away what her ending is, but everything I've read so far leading up to now, even this, it does not, nothing is leading me to believe that Kali is going to be evil or that Kali is evil right now. Um, and it just sucks that that's the narrative and impression everybody else has of her. Um, you know, it's just sad. Um, um, I was legit surprised. We even got a flashback of Axel getting shot and seeing her get her head shaved. I didn't think we would get that much. I thought we would. I thought that was, I mean, if they didn't give us that, then we really would have gotten almost nothing. Almost nothing to go on of Kali's character this season. Um, so yeah, but that really does make me sad. Like, though that like her whole gang was just murdered. Again, why I'm wearing this shirt today. R.I.P. Dottie, Mick, Axel, and Funshine. Oh my goodness. Um, I think Kali is jealous of Elle because she's living the life she didn't get to have. I did kind of get that a little bit, but at the same time, I think that she does feel, I don't know, I think like she cares about 11, and I think she does like seeing her have this sort of life and this sort of home. And I think she is obviously a little upset that she didn't get that. Um, but I do ultimately think if push came to shove, that she would not, that she wouldn't want to rob 11 of that. You know, I don't know. I really don't know. But um I feel like we need more Henry scenes before he became Vecna. Agreed. Um hmm. Honestly, it's no wonder we're getting stuck with excessive exposition if some viewers don't have basic empathy or understanding of these characters. Exactly, but then even with the exposition, we still don't. We like it's I don't know what's going on, but like there's a conversation to be had, I guess, lately of like, has there been a shift in people's consumption of media and like our understanding of media? Is it like, second screen syndrome of like people just on their phone and having the TV on like this and like half paying attention sort of thing? I don't know. Um, I wish we could send Linnea a much needed message to balance out the haters. I know, like I've been wanting to at least like pop in with a couple comments because it's just so sad. It's so sad. I thought Jonathan and Kali were done really dirty this season, but I was surprised with Kali especially. I know, I'm surprised too. I thought it was like, I thought it was going to be so easy. Like it was so clear what to do with her character. I've said it over and over, like give her a real purpose. Make her return feel really worth it. Um and that they have not done that, which like the bar, I feel like the bar was like so low. It was just like it's like just give her something to do. Have you seen the finale teaser? Oh, I saw some people in the chat talking about it, but then it said that it was like leaked. It was just like a leaked version, or have they put out an official one? Usually it would be on my home feed of YouTube if there was a new thing. I don't see it, so I'm gonna look and maybe we can check that out before I get off of here. Change it to Stranger Things 5. Whatever this is looks fan made, which was put up 8 hours ago. I don't think this doesn't seem legit. Yeah, no, this isn't legit. Whatever this first one that came up is. Um, did someone say Stranger Universe shared it? I don't see it. Does anyone have a link? Because I don't see it. Um, yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think one is out. Um, but yeah. Anyway, I was trying to think if there's any other last minute things. I feel like we've kind of talked about a lot of the big things that have at least been weighing on my mind. Um, and it is my channel. So, um, we covered all of that, I think. I didn't really have too much of an issue with like the Max and Holly stuff. Um, other than I kind of can agree with a little bit of the criticisms of like spending so much time on Holly in the final season. Um, because if this was another build-up season to like a season 6, then like sure, but it is the final season, and I feel like it is another situation of other OG characters getting less screen time that, because we're doing the whole storyline with Holly and the kids and whatever, but I'm hoping it all pays off. Um, because that was a worry I had in my season 5 trailer reaction of like, I'm worried about these kids. I'm worried about, adding kids into the final season of the show. It hasn't been as bad as I feared it might be, but it's still, you know, still a little bit on the fence about it. Some of the scenes with Holly are a bit too long. Yeah, I think the only one that really stood out to me, which I've seen other people point out, is um, after uh, Max's portal opened. That was the time when Max decided to take like 5 minutes to monologue to Holly about, you know, Holly the heroic and everything. I was like, okay, that was getting. I got mad at that moment because we saw previously that the last time her portal opened and she waited too long, it closed and she lost her chance. Um, and so for that to happen again, for the portal to open, and she just kind of decides, all right, there's the portal. Time to stand here and talk while it's opened. This whole time, it felt like the urgency wasn't there, which was like weird because people did say like it's like well like Vecna wasn't like actively chasing her, so there was no real urgency. But it's like no, because we saw that last time, the music could cut off, like it could close for like any reason, like who knows. Um, and she decided to take the time then to have this conversation, and I'm like, so like a writing fix for that would have been have them have that conversation before the portals opened. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have like some sort of conversation about it that could have helped that. Um, and then the portal opens and maybe you can take a couple seconds to talk, like and say one more final thing and then run to your portals. But the timing of that did feel a little poor. Yeah, I was like, "Run, girl, now's your chance." That's exactly what I was doing. I was like, "Where is the urgency? You have been in here for 18 months. Like, why? Like, any time that opportunity opens, you better run to take it." You know what I mean? Oh my gosh! And this was another thing. I don't. Okay, now we're going a little overtime, but just as like little nitpicky things. Um, Yeah, I know. Vecna didn't cut off the music, the tape stopped. But that's what I'm saying, like, there could have been that could have happened at any moment, like, something could have gone wrong where the portal closed, you know what I mean? And she still decided to take the time to talk. Um, but anyway, um, I was gonna say, just as, like, nitpicky kind of thing, w I'm confused. Did Vecna really need Will to be a spy in order to find out that Max was at the hospital? Someone please clarify that for me, because ain't no way over the course of 18 months after putting Max into critical condition himself by snapping her bones, that he did not think once over the course of 18 months that Max would be at the hospital. It's like, that's a likely place for her to be. You know what I mean? It seems like, I don't know if I was missing something there, but it seemed a little bit crazy, um, that he would need Will and then to be able to be like, "Found you." It's like, you couldn't have what? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to, I don't know if there was something I missed, but, like, in the moment, that kinda seemed a little bit, "Wait, what?" to me, and then also, with sending the demodogs, right? That I don't know, like, he just wants to kill her? Like, I don't know, like, he just wanted the demodogs to just go and eat Max? Is that what he wanted? Like, what does he get from that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, before it was like, wanting to use her as, like, the 4th thing to open the gates and everything, but, like, now it's like he just wants to kill her? Again, like, am I missing something? He wanted to kill her to get Holly back. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Alright, there we go, okay. Yeah, because, like, Max was helping her, right? And if she couldn't help her, then he'd be able to get Holly back. Okay, 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 thank you. That makes a little bit more sense, but it still just does. I guess the way it was presented did just kind of feel weird, and then the other thing was, with Karen suddenly being, like, able-bodied enough, um, to go down to where they were and put the tanks in the laundromat, and then I think it was just the thing of, like, I started to question it a little bit when the demodogs were so easily distracted by the tanks in the washing machines or whatever. Um, I don't know, something about that, like, I know we've seen demodogs be able to be distracted before, but, like, something about that, the way it played out just seemed a little bit, I don't know, because the demodogs are supposed to be, like, under control. So the fact that they were so close to Max and then we're suddenly just like, "Huh, what's this over here?" It did just kind of feel like, "What?" And then there was just the one moment where they actually had the demodog act like a dog and go, "Huh?" Tilt its head before the thing blew up. That was a little something about that in the moment. I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay, alright." Um, but yeah, that's just like a little, like, nitpicky moment that really kinda, I don't know, stood out to me. But, like, it seemed like a weirdly comedic moment, to, like, have the demo dog, "Huh?" I was just like, "Why?" Like, "Why?" Okay. Um, I honestly don't understand. Wait, let me see. I honestly don't understand how Karen survived. As soon as I saw how ripped up she was, um, I thought she should have been done. Me too. I really thought that she was gonna be dead at the beginning of the, episode 2, and I thought that was actually, like, really impactful and emotional, and then she was still alive. Like, and it's like, I'm not one of those people that's like, "Oh, people have to die in order for them there to be stakes." Um, but I feel like that would have at least set some sort of precedent, uh, early on so that, like, even if they don't end up killing anybody else, it still would have felt like it was, like, really serious. But I don't know, and I got, like, really emotional at that moment, and then it ended up feeling like, "Why did I bother getting all emotional?" Because she's still here, and now she's able to, like, walk around and do this very shortly after all of this happened, right? It's only been a few days or, like, a day or 2 or something, right? So, that's kinda crazy, but I guess the desire of a mother to defend her children and everything, uh, is what motivated her to do it. Um, mm, Robin could have saved them instead of Karen. Yeah, but I mean, I understand they wanted to give Karen something more to do. Um, but I don't know, it's just like the way a lot of these scenes play out, it does sort of feel like I don't know how to describe it. Just sort of like oddly outlandish things are happening. Sudden like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't explain it. Like, I understand what they're going for, but then, like, the way some of the scenes are presented, like Karen waddling into the room to, like, do this, it was just kinda like, "Eh." It was like, "Okay, you were, like, on death's door the other day." I don't know. Um Um, they wanted to give Karen more to do, but screw Kali, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know, it's like it is weird. Again, it's like this only other character with superpowers, and we're just not not giving her anything to do. And anything they do give her to do in the finale is going to be too little too late for people to care, for it to really land. You know what I mean? And that was the other thing. Like the Duffers have been open about like how the Lost Sister didn't land, for people. And so it's like they should have, scientifically dissected that episode to realize, okay, what didn't land, and now let's not do that again. But it's seeming like they they didn't analyze it close enough to decide, what they should really do with Kali this time. Um, the waddling was a bit much. I mean, I get that she like probably can't walk. She was literally almost dead. But that's why it's just sort of like to have her like resurrect in her bed at the Robin's message or whatever, and then go do that. And then still be able to talk enough as well. It just something about it just seems a little bit like I don't know. It's that suspension of disbelief thing that really started to ramp up with season 3, right? And it's like and I really do hate the argument of like why you need everything to seem realistic in a show about monsters and other dimensions and stuff. And it's like, well, there are rules and parameters to like storytelling and writing based off of um the world you establish, right? Season 1, that was a very real world. Like, you know what I mean? Like that felt very real. It's like, yes, and that was the appeal, right? It was a grounded character story with sci-fi elements and stuff, but it that doesn't mean it can't be realistic in every other way. Like, you know what I mean? the sci-fi elements were there, but they make you believe it. You know what I mean? And the way they make you believe it is by grounding everything around it, right? So the world feels so real that you buy into the fact that yes, the upside down can exist. Yes, these other monsters can be there. Like, yes, there can be this entity such as the mind flayer in this alternate dimension because everything else feels so real and the characters feel real and you buy into it, right? And that was the appeal of the show to me, at least. I love grounded stories. Like that's always um I've always been drawn to that, like story and character and whatever. And like that's what the first two seasons were like, and they were grounded and they gave you that, right? But then season three came along and decided to unground a lot of the real world stuff. And in the process, made the show more difficult to enjoy because the suspension of disbelief just started going crazy of like, all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like there are parameters, I think. Like if you establish the show as one thing, changing it into something else is tough and it's a choice. Um and they that is something they chose to do a little bit, you know, in season 3 and then it's just always been a little bit tough to sort of ever since then, ever since the world started getting so much bigger. It has demanded a lot of different things of the show, uh, and and it has caused like this fundamental difference post season 2, right? And and yeah, that's that is what it is. But yeah, I kind of really I hate that argument of like the whole show's unrealistic, and it's like, well, of course, like it's fiction, but there are, you know, rules to writing. Like if you're gonna create a very grounded world, at least maintain that. As soon as you unground it, it's gonna become something else. Um, and and that unfortunately did happen along the way to a degree. Um, and now with like these moments where it just feels like uh, you know, that does kind of go along with like people are invincible. Like I do get that as well. Like when the world once felt so real, it's like people probably would be dying. Like you know what I mean? But you know, people just don't die. So like I get it. I do get that in that respect. Um but yeah, it is just yeah, it just sort of becomes a different thing. And yeah, but I genuinely have to start getting ready to go. I am starving, and I feel like we did basically talk about everything I had on my mind. Um, and it's my channel, so that's important. You know, wanted to get out my thoughts there. Um, how would you write the season finale? Oh God, again, I really have no idea, but I would I don't know. I don't know. And again, it's like so it's like who are we to like criticize stuff when it's like we don't even have any idea of how we would end it, but um but it's tough. It's like I know what I'd maybe want to see and I know what I maybe wouldn't want to see, but then I don't know how to like I'm not a screenwriter. You know what I mean? It's like I am just here to consume the media and just give my opinion, my personal feelings and opinions, because I love the things I love very deeply, and I feel very strongly about the things I love, and I love to talk about the things that I love. I am a fan, you know what I mean? In so many ways. Like you see my room, like I love, like I'm a pop culture like fiend, you know, that's how I was raised. My mom is very big on pop culture, right? Um, you know, I was like I love music, movies, TV, like, you know, I just love this stuff. I'm a fan. I love to talk about the things I love. And that's pretty much the essence of my channel. I'm never looking at this as like trying to act like I know anything about writing, you know, uh, try and act like I got all the answers or anything. You know, it's like I feel very strongly, and from the way I feel, I maybe do sort of feel strongly enough that I maybe have an inkling of where things might be going because I just feel so strongly and like feel like I understand what's going on, sort of thing. But yeah, but nothing like, you know, I'm not trying to sit here ever to be like super objective. It's always just my personal feelings and opinions about things. And obviously that is always somewhat rooted in my bias and like what I would like to see and whatever, you know what I mean? But still also looking at it like, you know, does this work narratively? You know, does this make sense for the story? Like I feel like I'm able to give like a pretty balanced perspective, I feel. Like I've at least tried to do that. Like I've never tried to come at anything too negative or like too just like blindly positive necessarily. I don't know. I try to keep a an even thing here, but still obviously loving what I love about it and disliking what I dislike about it. But you know, it is what it is. And I just like to have fun with it, and that's why, like, when you see the negativity surrounding everything, it's just not fun. It's not fun. And this is the kind of thing I've always dealt with. I feel like I've always been a fan of things that are easy to hate on. Like, I've always been fans of things that is like herd mentality against it. Like I've always loved it and everybody else has hated it. Um, even though a lot of these things are extremely popular. It's weird. Like I have no shame in loving very popular things. Like so much of my favorite things ever are extremely popular. Um, but within that, there's things that I love about it that other people hate, like always, somehow. So like with The Walking Dead, Carl was one of the most hated characters on that show for so long, and he was my favorite character. And I was always defending the character. You know what I mean? Even like Titanic, right? Literally, arguably, maybe like the biggest movie of all time, right? Um, Yet because of that has garnered a lot of haters. Like it is cool to hate Titanic. Um, you know, and as a huge fan of the film, like I have to see that all the time. Like you know what I mean? Like Titanic's overrated, like blah, 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 it sucks. All this stuff, and that's annoying. You know, that is annoying. Um, you know, my favorite band growing up was Green Day. And they became so big in the 2000s, specifically when I got into them. And they became like uh, associated with like the emo thing going on at the time, which was like a very hated subculture at the time. It became Green Day sucks. Like that's the narrative. You know what I mean? Green Day sucks. Da, 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 da. You're so lame for liking Green Day. Like it's always there's always been something in my life where it's like something that I happen to love deeply also happens to have like a lot of detractors. Um and you know, it's like it's not like I'm not used to this, but it is just sort of It's my life, I guess. I don't know. I was I was I was just born to be put on this earth to constantly just witness a lot of hate for some of the things that I just happen to deeply love. Um, but yeah, but it's just kind of sad that Stranger Things has ended up going that way now. But um, yeah, and a final check right here. Rotten Tomatoes is down to 62% audience right now. So it's gone down a point since we started talking, or like 1% since we started talking. I'm telling you, by tomorrow, we're looking at possibly rotten territory for season 5 on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's just crazy. Um, and let's see where the bridge is at. The bridge has also gone down 1 point since we started talking. Oh my god. You guys, the bridge is now 1 point away from being the same exact rating as The Lost Sister. Which means at the rate this is going, in at least another day or two, it probably will be the lowest rated episode beneath The Lost Sister. That is insane. Wow. So is that a win is a win? I'm like, well, I mean, at least The Lost Sister isn't the lowest rated episode of the show anymore. Oh my god. But that is crazy. But again, it's sad because Kali is still somewhat associated with season 5 now being the worst season to a lot of people. You know, a lot of people are saying like season 5 easily the worst season so far. So again, a win is a win technically for season 2 fans of like the at least the rhetoric is kind of switching away from season 2 taking that burden. Um but I have still seen though season 2 catching strays, which is crazy. I saw and when I say it's crazy, I mean it's crazy in the sense of like I don't necessarily agree with this opinion of season 5 so far, but clearly the internet mob mentality right now and the narrative that they're setting about it is that it sucks. It's bad. Like it's so bad. It's Game of Thrones level, right? And so that's what people are saying about the season and that's what the internet is trying to lead people to believe, right? And so someone I saw someone comment like season 5 is easily the worst season so far, right? And that is what the herd mentality is believing right now, right? So even with that, like even with the popular opinion right now being like season 5 sucks, it's so bad, someone still commented, worse than season 2? Nah, I don't think so. Like even in the face of like apparently the like objective decision or like the objective consensus from like everybody on the internet right now is that season 5 is terrible, it's the worst, it sucks by far. People are still saying like it's not worse than season 2. And I'm like, what is it gonna take for season 2 to be fully absolved of like whatever that grudge is, you know what I mean? Like that is just crazy. But but yeah. It's just kind of funny. But anyway, I was just like, how is season 2 still catching strays? But I feel like season 2 is still catching strays though, again, because the connection to Kali, which is upsetting, right? Um, that it's like, season 5 has that direct connection. And so if people don't like season 5 and they think it sucks and they're obviously dragging Kali into the reasons why, obviously, like I said, that's not going to do season 2 any favors. Season 2 is instead potentially going to be, you know, the fault of all of this potentially, right? It's like, well, season 2 created her, season 2 brought her in, like season 2 did whatever and then they brought her back and now what, like, I don't know, but I do still think there's an opportunity for season 2 to be looked upon less harshly now because of the way things have been going right now for season 5. I mean, oh my god. And again, I don't necessarily agree with that. I just mean in the opinion of viewers apparently. That's all I'm talking about. Um but yeah. Anyway, I think it's time to wrap it up. We're closing in on 4 hours. Um and I have got to eat. I am starving. But yeah, shocked to see that the bridge is now the second to last with just a 1 point difference. Oh my God. We'll see where it's at this time tomorrow. It could be 5.9 or whatever, which is crazy. And then the Lost Sister is officially no longer the lowest rated. Oh, that is crazy. Um, Now, see, this is interesting. Uh, Editing Geek said my season ranking uh, is, I'm assuming this is best to worst. Um, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. And that would literally be my ranking backwards, I think. I'm still on the fence about where I'm putting 5. But I do think mine would probably be 2, 1, 5, 4, 3 from best to worst, or like favorite to least favorite. Wow, that's just so funny. But again, I say there is like a weird phenomenon of like people who love season 2 the most tend to dislike season 3 the most and vice versa. It's like very weird. But again, um I think I touched on it before that it's like season 3 was almost conceived and designed to be almost the exact opposite of season 2 in response to how season 2 went over at the time. So I think that's why a lot of people who love season 2 just had like a very strong reaction to season 3 because it was just like this is the complete opposite of what we just loved. So there's that, but yeah, it's just funny to see all the time the way like season 3 fans and season 2 fans tend to have like the complete opposite opinions to the point where our rankings would literally be the exact inverse or opposite of each other. Um Anyway, I got to wrap this up now. So, going to try to wrap it up cold turkey, I guess, but wow, so much going on. Um yeah, it's so much. Um Looking forward to the finale, seeing how they wrap it all up. That will, I think, determine maybe my final ranking of like, seeing how it all plays out. Because the Duffer Brothers have said, like, sometimes as long as you nail the ending, it won't matter what came before it. And I'm like, well, we'll see. If like the ending is like truly amazing and I'm like blown away and in absolute tears and just like, oh my God, then I probably will be able to say that I loved season 5 maybe, overall. Um But if things somehow go even, go further south than they have been, it'll be tough. It'll be tough. And I would hate to see that happen to the show. That would be so sad. Um, but we'll see. Doing a live discussion for the finale, of course, probably that Saturday after it. Just sticking with the same times, I guess, should be best. Because these have gone pretty well. So, um, thank you all for watching yet again. Appreciate it. These conversations are always really fun. And again, I just feel like for me, it's just the most direct and quick way that I can actually uh, do these sorts of discussions or reviews. Like, it's not really a review, but it's just being able to get my thoughts out. But yeah, so there's a lot, but we'll see how it all plays out. I do fear it will be rushed, but we'll see what they've cooked up. And yeah, I'll see you next Saturday then, I think. Um, Same time, I guess. Or wait, it comes out New Year's Eve. So that would technically, I would maybe go live Friday, but I don't know because I give myself like a day in between. I don't want to like wait too long, but I don't know how weekdays would work, so I might just stick with Saturday. Um, anyway, but yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I think there was like one message that was kind of nice that I wanted to read, but I think I lost it. I don't know where it went. Don't know where it went. But anyway, but yeah, so thank you. And yeah, looking forward to next week, but also sort of not looking forward to next week because it's just like depending on how it goes, the chat next week could be a little bit sad. We could be in low spirits next week if it really does somehow go objectively the route of Game of Thrones somehow next week. And it's just like objectively a terrible ending. Oh my god, it's like it's scary. Um but yeah, we'll see and let's hope that they give Kali something to do that can maybe somehow flip everyone's opinion of her currently. All right. Thank you guys and I will see you next week.